should I feel useless now? So find another way to get into my arms, to get into my heart again. Cause why should I feel helpless? Why should I feel useless now? Nobody's ever gonna hold me down. The night is young and we're friends. Nobody's ever gonna throw me down. There's nothing left you can say. Nobody's ever gonna hold me down. The night is young and we're friends. Nobody's ever gonna throw me down. There's nothing left you can say. Nobody's ever gonna hold me down. The night is young and we're friends. Nobody's ever gonna throw me down. There's nothing left you can say. Nobody's ever gonna hold me down. The night is young and we're friends. Nobody's ever gonna throw me down. There's nothing left you can say.
Girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done now.
The NLC Full Open, the stream presented to you by Square One and the NLC. I'm Will Vibrant Whittingham. I'll be taking you through this desk alongside two very, very wise men. I was going to say the three wise men, but we're not festive just yet. Also, I don't know if I count as that one. We've got Milo the analyst and Swiffer from Excel joining me today.
Hello.
Guys, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's really good to be here, joining you from Australia. Time's lined up perfectly to be here, so let's see what we've got in store.
Yeah, great too. Looking forward to some amazing games today. Yeah, it's going to be all fun.
Yeah, it should be absolutely amazing. Of course, we've got two games coming for you today in this final day of week number 1 of qualifiers. It's a bit of a weird one, but we're going to be looking at the bracket real quick just to show you how we got here and where we are. So, as you can see, 5 rounds in this qualifier. The first 3 were best of 3 matchups. Semi-final and final are only going to be best of 1s because all of these teams have already qualified. As you can see by the big square around it, we're going to be following Barrage taking on ENCE, and on the other side of the bracket, Viking Esports will be taking on Team Singularity. All of these teams qualified for the main event already, but this is going to be very, very important for seeding. So let's have a quick look.
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Let's have a quick look at which teams have qualified so far, just to look at these ones where I'm going to get some points from you fine gentlemen here. So these are the teams that we've got going forward. Are there any teams that really stand out as surprises to you?
To me, it's not really so much as a surprise. I kind of expected Barrage and Team Singularity. I think if there was a surprise, I'd say Viking. would have expected the Nordwind, except issues that they had to make it there. But aside from that, I think the Barrage and Singularity, I think we kind of probably all expected them to be here. Dusty did fall to Team Singularity, and that was kind of surprising. So the other side of the bracket, few upsets, I'd say, but on this side of the bracket with Barrage and Ents, I would say that everything kind of according to plan, more or less.
Yeah, I'll have to agree. Viking is definitely the most interesting here, the most surprising here. But hey, they also do have today to like prove that it's not just a fluke they're here. They do deserve it, since they, as you said, they're playing Singularity today.
Going to be a fascinating matchup on the other side of the bracket, alongside the one that we, as you say, all plain sailing for Barrage and Ents. Just to prove how big brain analysis looks, can we have a look at the teams that we predicted before the tournament started would be qualifying? As you can see, Barrage, Ents, and Singularity all on there. We've already touched a little bit on Dusty, but Viking must be said to be the biggest upset in this tournament, coming through into that top 4, have already qualified, and they've just had a pretty great run so far. So why didn't we think that Dusty were going to manage to break into this one?
Milo?
Yes, I can just, sorry, I'll take this. I think the reason, I think Dusty definitely had the, let's say, unlucky draw of seeding, or because they end up running into Team Singularity, which in my book is definitely a way bigger favorite than Dusty. I think had they basically been in any other of the brackets here, I think there's a very big likelihood they would have made it through. I think the only two that could really only take them out would be like Barrage and Singularity, and they hit Singularity.
Yeah, that's literally exactly the same thing that I was going to say. I think that if they had come up against Ents as well, I think that could have been a very, very close game. But I think that the seeding and the brackets kind of did them a disservice. Really unlucky for them, to be honest, because yeah, it definitely would have been a very interesting matchup to see them come against the other side of the bracket as well.
Of course, we are going to see another bracket next week with the teams that have qualified already removed. So hopefully an opportunity for teams like Dusty to have a bit of a better draw. Of course, M&M Gaming also on this graphic here, someone that we thought were going to do very, very well. Looked very, very strong when we watched them yesterday on this very stream, but also went up against Ents in their next game, which, as you can see from Ents qualifying, it didn't go their way, but could potentially be another team that we're looking towards to make that step up and look towards that next week. And Milo, I know you had a couple of thoughts on Nordwind as a team. Obviously, the situation where they didn't qualify, pretty unfortunate, pretty unexpected. Do you think that they'll be able to recover moving forward into next week?
I think if they have this exact same roster, which we would expect because of the roster luck, and they don't have any issues, I definitely do see Nordwind still being able to make it through. They are a really strong team, not only in paper but also in practice. They've shown that their playstyle can match really good teams. I though think it's interesting they actually end up going to 3 teams against Domino Esports, which is not something I would expect. I would expect that to be a rollover 2-0. So there might be something that like a chink in the armor that Domino found that more teams will use to against them in the next qualifier.
Excellent. Very, very interesting. I'm excited to see if they can pull this one out the bag. For both of you, just a quick question before we move on to talk a little bit more about the matchup that we're going to have to watch today. Are there any teams not on this graphic that you think are worth watching out for going forward into next week?
Do you want to take a Swift?
Yeah, that are not on this graphic going into next week. Honestly, I think that I think that you actually nailed it with the 6 favorites, to be honest. I think that I would be very, very surprised if these 6 weren't the ones that consistently were managing to get ahead. I think that they've had strong years. I think that their rosters are very, very solid. I think that they have wild cards in every single one of the rosters up on the screen now. I think that it would be quite an underdog story if the other teams did manage to sneak their way up into becoming a tournament favorite, to be honest.
Have to agree with you there. Of course, blowing our own trumpet just a little bit. Of course, Viking were the wild card coming out of this week. So if we do see Nordwind, Dusty, and M&M getting through, then there's going to have to be one more team joining them. Milo, a team that's pretty close to your heart. I know that you're currently not affiliated with them too much, but Absolved looked very, very good from what we saw from them.
Yes, Absolved. I would clearly say Barrage, in my opinion, is of course like the whole tournament favorite, but Absolved actually managed to take them to 3 games. They did take a game off them in game 2 yesterday, where they really did get to show how good they are at playing together as a team. Because I would say they very much won that game on, and they very much played close with them. The other games on playing as a team wasn't down to the individual players. So I definitely do see Absolved keep working on that across this week, and then in the next week be up there contesting, probably getting the 4th out of the 3 other favorites we have here.
Excellent stuff. And just before we jump into our matchup that we're going to be featuring today, because that's the one we're going to be watching, Singularity versus Viking on the other side of the bracket. I think it's pretty safe to say that Singularity the favorite. Swiffer, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would. Coming up against Singularity earlier this year, what we really looked out for actually was their mid jungle synergy. I think that especially in the current meta, you have such a wide variety of things that you can kind of pivot towards. I know that Singularity really kind of went for the like mid dominant jungle supportive style, which was so prominent earlier this year, and I'm just wondering to see how that's kind of evolved with especially the world's meta, where you see a lot more mid support style supporting the jungle carries that have come into the meta, like Graves in Italy and everything like that. Whereas before, Singularity kind of played the Syndra into the Lee Sin, kind of supporting Syndra to be able to take over the game. So I do think that Singularity are going to take it, but I'm just really interested to see how they've kind of adapted over the course of, I guess a year.
Milo, would you agree with that statement?
I would very much so. I think Singularity is. I have one of my favorite mid laners of this tournament. In we had a few Venerable getting caught out a little yesterday against Absolved, but like they're both really good players. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup because even though the support or the picks we're showing here on screen might indicate that Sephi is a like heavy roamer and Venerable is like a fighter, we actually have it swapped. So these are the correct champions, but Sephi actually prefers staying in lane fighting, getting real strong, and Venerable wants to roam.
That's actually what I was going to hit on as well. I just wanted to double check to make sure that the stats were correct. The thing that's really interesting is that Thresh is such a contested pick actually for Sepher and Wendelbed, just because I remember throughout the entire last season of the NLC, Thresh was almost 1-2 picked on both obviously blue and red side against Ents. Just because Sepher had such strong performances on the champion. I remember when we were scouting them, we definitely noticed that. I think we banded away from them. I think that their priority on it was incredibly high as well. So yeah, he really likes that kind of lane dominance. I would agree with you there. Yep.
It's very interesting to see that these two support players have these differing champ pools and differing playstyles, but don't really line up with what you'd expect to see from those champions. Looking towards the mid lane, it's a very different story in that you talked, Swiffer, about these more supporting mid laners. Galio clearly going to be a contested pick in this one with the Lucian as well, offering something a little bit different. What do you expect to see from the Sencux versus Simply matchup?
I think what you have here is you have the probably some of the strongest 2v2s in the tournament are coming out of the mid jungle. So you have Sencux and Maxi on one side, and I know from experience, because we did lose to them and we did end up losing to them. Sencux is an extremely aggressive player, which I know Milo will probably want to touch on a little bit as well. It's really good to see the Lucian coming out of him as well in one of his most played, considering it's probably the strongest, it's definitely the most versatile mid laner on the patch. It offers such a wide array of champions to the jungle pool. especially in the meta where you want to be clearing as many camps as possible. There's not that many AD champions that can do that, and Lucian just gives you that map pressure to allow the AP junglers to be able to do that and have synergy in the team fights later.
Yeah, as you said, I want to kind of touch on this because Senkos, as you mentioned, is really aggressive. If we just again look at the games yesterday, he were not only like fighting all the time, but he was like perma trying to get prio in the mid lane, pushing the mid lane all the time, making sure that Maxi could just actually invade all they wanted because he would always have the mid prio. And yes, on the other side, we have Simply. He, even though his champs actually are also kind of aggressive champs, he prefers playing the more style where he's like controlling the lane. He wants to be controlling, he wants to be roaming, he doesn't want to sit in the lane. And I don't see Senkox allowing him to roam.
Definitely.
I think I definitely agree with that. I think, yeah, just quickly to touch on, I think Simply is someone that I think, not saying that he's two-dimensional, but as you said, he really likes that one specific playstyle. I will say that there have been instances in the past where if he understands where another team is going to play around or what they're going to pull out specifically in the mid lane, I think he is the kind of player to maybe prepare a pocket pick or something. I know that he has pulled out Tristana in the past in definitely kind of off meta picks that could throw a spanner in the works. So that's something to look out for as well.
We've only got a couple of minutes left before we jump directly into this best of one series, but let's have a look at the two rosters and talk a little bit about what we expect to see playstyle wise. Of course, Milo, you've been doing a little bit of research on this one. Barrage up on your screen, and Swiffer's going to be pretty sad seeing that roster up on his monitor again.
Yes, as we say here, it's the ex-Riddle roster. It's the exact same roster as Riddle had for NLC. And their playstyle in this tournament so far has actually been very aggressive, we're gonna win on our mechanics kind of style. They haven't been too focused on setting up stuff. They haven't been too focused on the overall macro. They've kind of been looking for these fights and just saying we can win these fights purely based on our mechanics. And the further you get into a tournament, the harder this is going to be. You're going to meet more and more mechanically skilled players. And at one point, you're probably just going to like hit a wall of that, or you're going to have to change your playstyle, especially in best of ones, where you can't really use game one to test out the enemy's mechanics. You have one game, that's what you have.
Excellent. We're going to be moving over to Enter's roster just to see who they're going to be facing. And Swiffer, I want to go to you first on this one. As we're about to be jumping over, predictions for this matchup. Who's going to take it to the final?
I think Riddle will take it to the final. I think Barrage have got this. I'm interested to see actually whether or not, because as you said, they might come up against more mechanically gifted players in this matchup specifically. I'm really interested to see if they kind of default back to what worked for them during the last NLC split, where they kind of were the kings of 1-3-1, where Senkox just kind of picked the TF. They played for topside. A lot of Gnar came out and everything like that. I'm really interested to see if they don't get the Lucian, to see if that's where they pivot to. But yeah, I have to give it to Barrage.
Arlo, are you in agreement, or are you going to do something?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Enter's a good team, but I still think Barage's we're gonna fight you comp is gonna have mechanically over Enter, and I definitely think Barage's still gonna take it.
Well, we've got a clean sweep on the desk because I'm going to be going for Barrage as well. But of course, Enter's already qualified for the tournament, so they're just going to be sad about losing that seed. But let's see how this game unfolds. We're going to be throwing you over to Greyheart and Nymera.
Thank you very much, Viperoon, and to the rest of the analyst desk as well. As I say, I'm Stanley Greyheart Barker, joined by Alex Nymera, Hapgood, and we are delighted to be bringing you this game in its entirety, starting with Camp Select, and we are getting straight into the action, Alex.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we have been deprived of the possibility of 3 games, but luckily, there's only so much power this stream can take, and I'm not sure that they could withstand all 3 games of us. It's great to be casting with you once again, Stan. What a matchup we've got. Lovely that the Dask had so much to go through. Looks like there is immediate focus on the mid lane. It's a TF ban, which I'm not sure has been played by either of these guys so far in this tournament, but we have seen the Galio, and that is something which fits into the same role.
Very true. We talked about a little bit about the contested matchup between Senkux and Simply, the guys there, just discussing how crucial those two summoners will be. Meanwhile, however, Ents turning around and saying, you know what, there's some pretty strong junglers out there right now. We don't want Nidalee or Graves going over to Maxi. Still looking, and of course, there's the possibility of Redside banning away the Lucian, but if it's not, you know it's going to be hotly contested.
Absolutely. I think that Swiffer put it really well. Lucian, if not the most powerful, if you don't want to use that word, is the most versatile mid lane champion on the patch. He just kind of does everything. Early lane prio, he's got it. Teaming up with his junglers, yeah, he does that too. Scaling into the late game, yeah, well, he's got several builds to spike at different points during the game, so we're going to have to see whether it will be banned. I would really like it to, because Senkux absolutely absorbed a new one in game 1 of their series versus them yesterday.
It'd be very surprising if it wasn't the first pick should the Lucian get through. And with the Galio banned away from Senkux, that Lucian is still available. We'll see whether that prediction comes through. 2 of the key AP junglers that you usually see the Lucian paired up with have been taken away in the Lilia and the Nidalee. But regardless, the Lucian is locked in.
So if we're talking about other AP junglers, I guess we're looking at Evelynn. That's, of course, the Fnatic special. We've seen that from them a number of times throughout this split over in the higher leagues of the European League of Legends. So we have to see what Lens want to do with their return picks. Are they going to immediately snap up a mid laner? They could leave that until pick 3. Or, of course, you just lock in a flex pick if you really want.
Yeah, entirely possible. Looks like the Shen is going to be the primary focus for Ents. Of course, there's a lot of flex potential with that, with River Shen having come back to prominence, Sup still very much being a thing, and is technically still a top lane champion. One more pick still to come from Ents as well.
So I think one thing which is kind of important is Simply has played Syndra, which can do pretty okay into a Lucian. You have a number of combos which can at least hold him accountable in team fights, because if he wants to dash forward and he ends up eating a full combo from Syndra, if you Q, W, or WQ into Alt E, because all the balls are already on the ground, he can't dash out of that larger arc of stun from the Scout of the Week, and he just cannot team fight from that point. Gets stunned, gets locked up, and he has a really awkward time dealing with Syndra, at least in a multi-man setting.
I'm not sure I have ever seen such a smile on your face from a mid lane lock-in that wasn't an Ahri before, but the timing on that was exquisite, Nymera. And we talk about AP junglers. Let's talk about Karthus.
Talk about Karthus. Yes, okay, so it's not Evelynn. This is the Karthus. Farms up an absolute storm and ends up coming in with the ganking the entire map strategy where you press your R button and people take a lot of damage. It's going to be the Gangplank on top of that too. So that's double global with a really high priority and agency Lucian, which means that if Lucian ever goes for a 1v1, well, that's probably an extra like 300, 400 damage coming in on top of that, even at the level 6 mark.
Okay, one more pick to come through from Ents before we see the next stage of bans. Looks like they're going to be opting into their jungler. Not quite a Lilia, it's the AD version. Hecarim coming back onto the Rift.
Okay, so things about this, because Ents have pretty much thrown the gauntlet and said, okay, we are going to be diving into your team. There's a problem with diving into Gangplank and Karthus, because Karthus, even if you kill him, he just puts down a load of DPS. Gangplank as well has barrels, has the ultimate. If you dive into that and you don't finish the fight with your first round of ultimates, things get really awkward really quickly. However, in the Sims kind of situation, they can't exactly tank up that amount of damage either. If you have the Shen riding the pony with the several horsemen of the apocalypse coming out of nowhere, if you can finish off a number of people very early with a very fed Hecarim, we've seen a couple of those on our stream at least for the NLC, even though on paper it looks like diving into a GP is pretty bad, if you wipe the team fight, who cares, right?
Very, very true. Of course, GP has shown himself very capable of wiping team fights himself recently. Heimerdinger is going to get banned away, probably from KVO. We're expecting to still see 2 ADC or APC picks for the bot lane. Of course, the Syndra could be flexed down there, but with the Ezreal ban and the Heimerdinger, it does seem this is the point of focus for the second phase of the bans.
It is. I wonder whether we're going to see... So Bard is going to be a pretty big pick. Leona, Nautilus, plenty of things, because Barrage doesn't have a huge amount of dedicated engage, and Ents don't really have too much throwaway engage that they want to be using right now. I think Ashe isn't... well, of course, it's just been banned away there. Would have been the go-to pick for both of these things. Jhin might be at the other one, but it looks like the Senna is going to come through from Ents instead.
Senna comes through, does give a huge amount of scaling. We still have that opportunity that the Shen could be going in support, and Seth could be playing that one, but it's slightly more likely to see something along the lines of maybe the Bard or even the Leona, which is so highly prioritized between both Sepe and Wendelbo.
There's that, and we have seen a bit of Pantheon support coming around. Of course, the desk also talked about the various playstyles of both of these supports in Wonderblow and Sephic. We have the Jhin locked in. That's another one of those utility AD carries, has that long range CC. Rakan is not something we have seen from Wonderblow this tournament, I'm pretty sure. At least not from the games that we've seen of them. He's been, like I said, he had Tahm Kench games. The Halo Blaze Tahm Kench was nightmarish, actually. He was doing far too much damage for his support, and that scares me a great deal. But they are hovering over the Rakan right now. I think that is another decent pick into the... Because Rakan does pretty well with a lot of these low-range champions. He can get right on top of the Syndra and make... if you end up having this huge amount of CC where you lock up pretty much any of these champions into a Cannon Barrage and then have the Karth Assault coming on top of it, that seems like a pretty decent 100-0 opportunity for me.
All right, well, we've got one last pick to come in. Will it be one of the champions that we heavily associate with Seth, or will it be some kind of counter pick up into the top lane Gangplank? The answer is that could well be the Leona lock-in. This is a champion that Seth has played a couple of times already throughout this tournament and is doing pretty well with. We are, I'm just hearing that we may have to have a remake of this lobby. Potentially, I'll let you know if that one comes through, but you'll see pretty quickly. If not, we're going to treat it as this is the actual game that we're going to be seeing. And what do you make of these two top positions, Alex?
I think both teams immediately put their cards on the table. As soon as you see Shen Hecarim, you know exactly what they're doing. I think that the Syndra is maybe a little bit off theme, if anything, just to kind of deal with that Lucian matchup. Because Lucian has a couple of answers, but no one that really crushes him in lane. I guess you could say someone like a Cassiopeia, which we also saw from, I think it was Absolved. No, it wasn't Absolved. We saw it from one of the other mid laners in this tournament. Did pretty well into that matchup. But the Syndra can at least deal with him in team fights, like I said, with that overwhelming amount of CC, which can come through.
Okay, and with that being said, considering that this is a best-of-1 shootout, with the winner going through to the final of this part of the qualifiers, potentially playing for a better seeding going in, and we know how important those seedings can be, and Barrage and Riddle will know better than anybody how important those seedings can be. Who are you favouring coming into this game?
Well, Doxy is really, really good at League of Legends. That's something which I've learned over the last few days, and I think that Senkox's best performance has been on that Lucian too. I think that Barrage have relied on their ability to outplay maybe a little too much throughout this qualifier so far, but with these picks, they are absolutely in a position to just outmuscle these opposing lanes. I think that Ensis team comp needs a lot of coordination. Barrage just needs one opening, and then the mechanical outplay to come in, so I'm probably going to favor them this time.
All right, we are going to, in a moment, have to remake this lobby for just a couple of technical difficulties. However, we'll get into the action just as quickly as we can. I have been told that the champions are going to be the same. We'll be seeing the same draft, so what you see before you is what we're going to be seeing on the Rift in just a few short minutes, hopefully. In the meantime, we have an opportunity not only to discuss these two teams, but just to catch up in general. It's been a while since we got to cast
together. It has actually been a while, yeah.
And I don't think I haven't noticed that T-shirt that you're wearing.
This is my League of Legends T-shirt and my music T-shirt. It doubles up in all regards. I like to take the lessons I learned from one area of my life, put them straight into another one, and hopefully no one will be reprising this kind of performance on the Rift today.
No, it's all right. You're not up there with your Ahri, so I think we should be safe for that one. Fun fact.
No, safely on the windowsill, fortunately.
Fun fact: this shirt that I'm wearing actually was on the stage of a feeder gig because it used to belong to their guitarist. So there you go. Yeah. So we're both wearing a feeder shirt today. But yeah, we're going to be getting into the action very, very soon. I'm happy to agree with you.
Quick segue to something else, Stan.
Well, no, that's easy enough. We've got plenty to talk about and only one game to cover it all in. We are looking at Barrage being heavy favourites coming into this game. Every single member of our analyst desk predicted it, so it was a 3-0 in terms of votes for this straight win for Barrage. However, and I feel like they've drafted well. They've given themselves opportunities, and if we see any of the sloppiness or the overconfidence that we saw from Barrage yesterday in their one loss against Absolved, I can still see Ents coming through and taking this. We can't attest for how seriously Barrage are going to take this game, which is essentially just for seeding.
And that's the thing, right? But of course, you alluded to it earlier about Barrage being that old Riddle roster, which had just the hellish schedule and seeding going into their EU Masters run. And that really, really hurt them. I believe they played 19 games in about 2 or 3 days because they played semi-finals and finals in their own region within one day, and then they went immediately into the EU Masters playing stage, and that just really ended up giving them a hard hard draw, really. And what that means is that, have we actually seen the limit of this team? Have we seen the ceiling of them? Because we've only seen them in such weird situations. We haven't seen them on the even playing field, and I get that it's just a best of one, but hopefully against some stiff opposition in ENCE that we'll be able to see a little bit more of that ceiling.
The artists formerly known as Riddle, they've got some real pedigree in the players here. We talk a lot about Sencux. Some people have lauded him as the best player in not just these qualifiers, but potentially the entire NLC Fall Open. For me, he's still yet to show that class that for it to really shine through, for that to be proven to me. I'm looking towards him on this Lucian pick to be one of the real enablers for Barrage taking this game.
Yeah, he did very, very well in the one Lucian game that we saw from him on stream beforehand, and his Galio game was similarly actually really good. Maybe not in lane, he kind of suffered a bit against Eden Fox from Absolved. Excuse me, his set, which kind of made it a bit of an awkward matchup, but his team fights in that game were really immaculate. For him to be touted as the best player in this competition, and then perhaps in a larger setting too, maybe does need a little bit more proving from us. I think you're right in questioning that. However, there is still this one game in the finals. I think we move on to that to get another couple of games in the bag to at least bolster that argument for him.
The fact is, you can be lauded as a player, and you may even technically be that best player on paper, but at the end of the day, so many different things can happen. The pressure can get to players. There are players who I can think of, even in our ongoing world championships, who have been stated as, oh, this is the best player of this lane going into a tournament, but maybe have been outshone by other players who have really stepped up, or themselves haven't come up to quite the level we'd expect of them. So maybe that pressure gets to Sencux as well. If that is the case, then I do believe Barrage have to look towards a couple of other key players. And boy, Rai has been consistently strong.
He has. He's just been the consistent performer. I think where a couple of games, I think Sencux in the game 2 versus Absolved, like you were alluding to as well, where he played the Rise, which is a little bit edge meta anyway, into a draft which wasn't so great for him. Played very aggressively. Didn't really play around his points of power. Same with actually Maxi. He was engaging quite awkwardly on the Hecarim pick that game too. And it felt like Barrage just didn't pick the right fights at the right time. And Riot was kind of sat there at the back of the team, felt like, guys, I'm Nazrul with 3 items. Can we play the slow, play the poke battle maybe? The answer was a firm no, and they ended up losing that game.
Very, very true. And again, I said this yesterday on the analyst desk. I'll say it again. I'm not here to throw shade on anybody, but Wendelboe, especially with some of the decision making on the Thresh in that game, which had been previously banned away from him, was questionable and slightly overconfident, a little on the erratic side. He's playing on the Rakan now, has a huge amount of engaged potential, but again, will have to play within the parameters of what he's actually capable of doing without getting counterplayed by ENCE.
And so I think Wendelboe, we saw, he was very mercurial in the one series that we covered from them. He did have that one Thresh game, rightfully calling that out. Then he went on to the Leona game in game 3, and don't look at that KDA, because if you look how far his health bar kind of went down and stayed there, and the amount of time he brought up in teamfights on a Leona, tanking at the initial engage, getting Aftershock and Eclipse to just turn around teamfights and survive everything, he did a really, really good job in that game. So which Wendelboe are we going to get in this one? Of course, it is only a best of one. If it is a coin flip and it comes down to that, and we are talking about individual player performances, I think the support matchup, which again was highlighted on the desk too, will be very, very important. Particularly in this game, because Rakan Leona is not an easy matchup.
It's not, and actually that leads me beautifully into the question I just wanted to ask you now. We don't like to deal in what ifs too much here on the caster desk, because we could look at all sorts of things. What if they pick this champion? What if they pick that champion? But coming into the final pick for Barrage, I honestly expected Wendelboe to take the Leona. It felt like it synergized and gave good engaged potential to Barrage. It felt like it denied it from Seth. Would you personally have preferred to see the Leona on the Barrage comp?
I think particularly picking... I think Leona would have been good anyway. Leona or Nautilus are both just pretty good stand-in champions for pretty much every team comp in League of Legends, it feels like nowadays. Rakan does have a number of answers, and Leona is one of them, so I think particularly picking the Rakan while the Leona is still open in this last pick, that was the bit which is questionable to me, not just the Rakan pick in itself.
Here we go, Nightmare. We're onto the Rift for the one and only game of this semi-final matchup between Barrage and ENCE. Both teams taking their defensive positions across the Rift. A little bit of early poke coming through from Maxi onto his rival jungler Titan.
It is. I'm not sure if we're going to see those level 1 invades that we see from Lilia all the time. It is the Karthus has really good early AoE clear, but he's the kind of guy who just really wants to get on with his farming business. That's his shtick. That's what he wants to do. Get to the level 6 mark very, very quickly, because even though Karthus has been nerfed in so many regards, this is patch 10.19, it's not the heyday of earlier patches in this season where he could clear even 5-10 seconds quicker than he currently does, but he's still just very happy to just keep kiting around jungle camps and getting all that gold.
And it does feel like both of these teams have got very specific level 6 spikes. They're all really dependent on the ultimates. This isn't a game where we've got, let's say, a Nidalee, a Lee Sin in the jungle where we're going to see huge early gank prio. We're going to see Taiki and Maxi most likely both looking to power farm up to level 6, have the Onslaught of Shadows, have the Requiem, and start to join in these team fights as the clutch summoner spells like the Unleashed Power, like the Cannon Barrage come in.
I absolutely agree with that. I think one thing which I do want to pick on, though, is that Hecarim and Karthus both kind of want to farm up, like you were saying, but one of these teams has better priority lanes, and one of them's happening in the bot lane.
Zeph says, nuts to the slow game, I'm going in with the Zenith Blade. Rai takes a huge chunk of damage in the early phases. Zeph does have a bit of a trade back courtesy of Wendelboe. No Summoner's Burns on this trade.
I was a bit worried about the TBT from Barrage. We talked about the Rakan into the Leona. It was a little bit weird. Not normally at the level 1 mark. I was more thinking about the solo laners from Barrage being, oh, Gangplank could bully Shen a bit. Lucian had a good early trade there. Maybe that'll help these farming junglers. TB2 looks like the health bars are kind of been trading back once again. But I think really how this early prior goes might sum up how this game goes afterwards.
And importantly for Seth as well, courtesy of the push coming in from the Barrage bot lane, level 2 is going to be picked up first by Ryan Wendelboe, which means that Leona extra engage is not there. Meanwhile, Nil is taking a huge amount of damage up in the top lane. Doxy just bullying out this Shen in the early.
Doxy has been really good at using the Gangplank passive. That's one thing which I will notice. Taiki actually popped Ghost, blew the flash of Senkux while we were away in the top lane. Wendelboe doing what he does best, roaming very early. Rai walking up to the 2v2. I'm not sure I'd be that bold, but what this has signaled, because Wendelboe is very, very early into this game, managed to be unlocked slightly, it means that Maxi gets a look into the enemy jungle and at least gets a ward down.
Yeah, Maxi is going to look to potentially try and contest, but has to be very, very careful that it doesn't get collapsed on. Looking to try and 3-buff Taiki, who's just taking the blue buff away. Probably going to allow it to reset, but Maxi's not interested in that. Throws down the Defile, he's got good damage. This will come down to a smite fight for the blue, and the first engage comes as Seth does manage to take a to the face. It is going to be Wendelboe dashing back away as Taiki still putting the damage down. Blue buff will reset, the damage is coming in onto Maxi, and it is going to be the jungler who goes down for first blood. Taiki gets the kill, the lay waste coming in from the now dead Maxi, who flashed but is dead and does not get a return kill. Rai does find one onto Taiki, however, and makes it a 1-for-1 trade.
Early priority, baby, simply can't get into the fight, and it is as simply done as that. Rai picks up the double buffs, only has boots to his name, but the 4th shot execute damage is more than enough to take down the prancing pony. It is a kill onto Karthus too, slows down his clear, which Barrage will be slightly worried about, but it is still, I think, an overall win for Barrage.
It definitely is. However, let's look at the summoners that were burnt. Flash burned on both Maxi, Senkux, and Rai as well. Wendelboe using the Ignite. In response, Ghost used by Taiki, Heal used by Kavo, and Ignite used by Sephi. So overall, I believe that's a 4-3 trade in favor of Ents, actually. And they also have the very slight gold lead.
I'm wondering how these double buffs are going to affect this laning phase now, though, with the extra bread buff taking over. I know that Jhin is not the most chase you down and kill you AD carry, but he still will get a lot of extra laning presence from that. And because there's so much focus in the bot lane, look at this top lane. It's just been left on an island, as it so often is, and I think that absolutely favors the Gangplank, as he's got himself a cull, and he's really happy to just keep trading and farming.
I saw this firsthand yesterday up in the top lane. Doxy, when given an inch, took an absolute mile, and he's bullying Nil out in a big, big way. Hasn't actually found himself a CS advantage, but with that cull already stacking up, things looking pretty good for Doxy. Meanwhile, Wendelboe is going to find himself stunned. Shield Daybreak is going to pop, but Sephet is just going to take away a little bit of vision, and yet again, the trade leads to nothing for Ents.
It does. Actually, one of the follow-on effects from this bot lane, prio and fighting and focus from both these teams, might be that Wendelboe is unlocked, but he's run out of lane, and that's a lot of damage already.
The Zenith is going to connect, dash back onto the ADC, flashback from Wendelboe, but he still dies. Kavo gets his first kill of this game. Rai taking a lot of damage, still has the double buffs, will be healing himself up, but is going to be without a support for a few moments.
That's a little bit of an overstep from the Rakan. Easily caught up by the Flash Zenith Blade. Cancels the animation with the Flash, actually. Very slick there from Zephyr. And this is where maybe we were a bit worried. Zephyr, the aggressive support, the guy that wants to just send the enemy support into the dumpster. I'll give you the stats for the 4 games that they have sent their supports in. This is the KDAs. 0-7-0, 0-5-6, 0-5-1, and 1-6-4. Supports do not have a good time versus Ents.
They do not. And it's interesting how both yourself and the analyst desk were just so on top of the way these two supports would play. Wendelboe having looked for multiple roams, it worked out around the blue buff for Barrage in the end. However, now the catch is starting to come through from Seppi, who's just a little bit more aggressive. Meanwhile, both of the ultimates are available for these top laners. Watermelon's down on the ground, ready to explode and blast seeds all over Nil's face. It is going to be just an interesting skill matchup now between Doxy and Nil. Now they've hit their respective ultimates.
Oh yes, full party Gangplank for the summer, which I've completely missed by being indoors playing video games.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh, it hurts me. I'm sorry, it hurts me so bad. Wendelboe has not been deterred by his death, though. He's managed to go find himself his own vacation and gone into the river. I hear it's very beautiful this time of the Rift.
And this is Seth trying to push forward, but has to be very, very careful because Maxi's laying in wait as this Scuttle Crab becomes the objective that both teams are trying to control. Nil now doing very nicely against Doxy. However, Doxy going to be able to step himself away. Does still have the teleport available. Seth going aggressive. Is going into 3. The Scattleweed comes through from Simply. It's going to be Kavo here with the damage. Root is going to connect, and Max is in all sorts of trouble, dying for the second time in this game courtesy of Nil, who came down with the stand united. And it is going to be a second quick kill as Ents find themselves yet more advantages. The underdogs looking strong, looking to take themselves a dragon.
Yeah, and they managed to find and engage before you have Maxi with any kind of damage, really. He has the Dark Harvest, sure, but he didn't even have the level 6 mark, so we don't have the Requiem coming through. Cannon Barrage not really finding the value you really want out of it, and Wendelboe's now been caught up too.
He's been rooted down, does dash to the safety of Rise. The Infernal Dragon goes over to Ents. Oh, sorry, Mountain Dragon.
That's the one, sure. They look kind of similar, sure. We've still got Taiki in this bot lane. W barely missing onto the ground, but now Rise caught out.
Taiki going aggressive, deciding to step back into Kavo's Shroud. He's just going to disappear into the mist for now.
Yes, I guess during all this, at least we have, for the side of Barrage, Doxy and Senkex left alone in a lane. But it's kind of... It's not even a silver lining. It's just like oh, I guess that's okay.
I mean, on the plus side, at least Doxy and Rai have both got themselves some reasonable CS advantages, which means this gold lead is only at the 800 mark, despite giving away both First Blood and those 4 kills.
Absolutely. I guess now we're waiting for the next moves around the map. We do have the big ultimate up from the Karthus. We have the big ultimate up from the Hecarim too. I think that we're probably still going to go down to towards the bot lane. Look at the XP difference between Cephei and Wendelboe. This is the problem of roaming quite a lot. You do fall behind in XP, and you're not someone like a Bard who can pick up those chimes to keep that topped up in that regard.
And Kavo, who's a player I've had the pleasure to cast many times, is a really solid game so far. 1-0-3 on that Senna. Picked up the early pickups rather than going into the tier. So that's not going to be stacking up just yet, but you've got to assume they've got to be pretty close to being able to complete the Mirror Mana soon.
What we've definitely seen an emergence of the pickaxe first into the Manamune throughout this season. It just allows you to fight so much more often. It allows you to fight around something like the first dragon, which is what Ents fought around and subsequently won. And that's one of the big values you can see. It happens a lot with Ezreal, but of course Senna being another one of those stacking tier item carries, very, very relevant.
It is indeed, and the same can be said for Lucian in the mid lane, who's gone for the exact same idea, just hasn't been able to be as impactful as the Senna so far. Herald might be the next point of contest. We'll have to have a little look if we're going to get Australia lanes. Taunt is going to connect onto Doxy, cleanses immediately, but Taiki's here with the damage from the Onslaught of Shadows, with the knockback, decimating charge, and yet again, a kill comes through for Ents. It's the 3-1-0 Hecarim, who's already got the Sheen completed and getting closer and closer to that Triforce. Blue buff yet again being contested over. This one is going to go over, I believe, to Maxi. Scap of the week, not quite stealing the way for Simply. Now the dash onto Cephei, who is brought out, and it's going to be a very, very nice ultimate coming in. The curtain call misses once, it does not miss twice. Maxi eventually taking away that kill from his ADC.
Jhin getting involved half or a full screen away really, really helps these split fights. They see Taiki on the top side, and I really like what he did with his ultimate. Made sure that he positioned it so even if Doxy flashed, he would get caught by it and subsequently die, because Hecarim does have a lot of damage with that Sheen tree, as you were saying, got a lot of gold. Now 3-1-0, he will be a very large carry threat. And what we were talking about, it's kind of like this balancing counterweight system of, can we kill everyone on the double? Will they disengage very effectively with the Rakan, the Karthus, Wall of Pain, and of course the Cannon Barrage too? Right now, I'll probably be favoring that Hecarim.
Weatherbow gets caught out, manages to dash to the safety of a lack of vision for the Ents ADC. That fight that went down went quite nicely, and the kill was picked up by Maxi, but it did allow time for Taiki to just go and immediately take away the Herald. So we don't have to look at Australian lanes, so we don't have to look at rotations. Ents could just keep what they're doing and doing it well. They are, however, dead level in gold.
Yeah, well, we already had enough OCE on the broadcast with Swiffer, so no, we can't have that extra flipped map. We are going to have... what I really like about that play, by the way, is that Taiki goes top, and then Barrage trades something bot lane, but that's counter-traded again because the Herald goes down, so it just looks like the jungler from Ents is just very on top of where he can be on the map, just taking everything available to him right now.
Yep, just under 3 minutes for those turret plates. We do see that there's, of course, the Herald now in the pocket of Taiki. We'll see where the control is put down towards which plates he wants to be picking up, not only to get an extra bit of gold into the Hecarim's pockets, but also to one of his laners. Potentially a little bit of pressure on this mid lane if Senkux recalls here. Of course, does have the teleport to get straight back to lane should he get shoved in.
We saw the gold values flick up there just across the scoreboard. Nothing huge right now. Some marginal leads across the board. And as we say that, got a bit of a fight in the bot lane. Solar
Seth
Flare
goes aggressive again, throwing down the Solar Flare. The re-engage comes in, damages onto Seth, who is going to die to Wendelbo's Ignite. In goes the onslaught of Shadows, but it's not enough to help secure a kill. This is going to be a 4 versus 2 down in the bot lane, but the two are doing mighty fine, taking the health bars lower and lower. Rai manages to find himself a curtain call, does get tagged by Kavo, is going to get rooted down, but that doesn't stop you from firing your shots out. Taiki's going to take the 4th shot to the head, but the pony doesn't mind. He gets out to safety, but he's already lost his support.
He has done, and once again, it's Doxy sat in the top lane. We saw this on his Jace game against Absolve. We're seeing it again now on the Gangplank. He's just more than happy to chuck down the cannon barrage, which was
Simply completely caught in his own junglers. Maxi yet again finds an aggressive invade into the blue side of Ents, and it is going to be a free and easy kill for the Karthus, who has now completed the Runic Echoes. Nil finds a solo kill onto Doxy, meanwhile. Did not see that one coming, and Maxi doesn't see Sefe coming. It's going to be the stun connecting. The root's going to go wide from Kefe. Zenith Blade is going to catch onto Maxi, who does not have flash available, and with a dragon available, this is not when Maxi wants to be dying, if he wants to be dying at all. He's staying alive courtesy of Wendelbow shields for now, but eventually the shutdown comes in, and it's Hecarim who claims the gold. Seth flashes to safety, but can't get away from the deadly flourish, and now Kavo is running to the wrong side of the rift. He'll run over Vision. Rai will continue to chase Senko, waiting for the dash to get over the wall, wanting to be able to help the Jhin to make sure the Senna can't win a 1v1. That's a 2v1 now. Double tap time from Senko. He finds his first kill of the game.
It's very, very messy, but the people that come out on top in this one are the people in blue. They get the big fight. It is another death for the Karthus, but he's stacking up very, very nicely on the Dark Harvest.
It's looking pretty nice right now for the Karthus, who had a bit of a slow start, got caught out with the early invades. However, those invades are paying off more and more. As we see what happened here with this catch. First of all, from Sefe.
You know, as soon as the replay came up, I wondered exactly where they go. We're going to go right back to how this huge kerfuffle started out. And we see Wendelbow kind of caught out with Leona. Re-engages, does get caught out by Taiki at the end of it, but the cannon barrage is such a big presence in this fight. Just goes entirely the Tribush, gets down a couple of hundred damage onto various members, and what we see is simply is kind of going way too far. He has his ultimate available, but if he's not going to 100 to 0 someone there, he will be caught out, and his cooldowns will not be able to come up in time. He takes too much damage because of that, and Maxi just scouts him out. That's the Runic Echoes, that's the Dark Harvest, that's a meaty amount of damage.
And you speak of scouting out there was a control ward that we saw in the replay. Hold on, what happened with Nil? Flash.
I believe it's just an overstay from Doxy. You can try and play that line very, very closely on the Gangplank. We're going to go right the way through this as well.
This is a hell of a play.
It absolutely is, because Maxi is just... Look at that Runic Echoes burst. That is so much onto the center. And at that point, Kevo has to play so respectfully. Has to back off from Sankox, not getting a lot of autos down. And if your AD carry is not getting autos and the other one is, that's always going to be such a large amount of DPS difference, even if they're not the huge crit carries that we've seen in past matters.
Confused by why Kavo wandered towards the Tribush rather than trying to go towards his own turret, but I'm sure there was a good logical reason that I, as an inferior player, would not be able to
I don't know if you saw where Suncox was. I wasn't. There's a lot to track in that replay, to be honest. Quite a lot. Oh, Wendelbow needs to track some members too. Gets out alive though.
Yeah, he gets out to safety. Things spotted out by Control Ward, and that Control Ward I was talking about, it was actually by the blue buff of Ents. It was just down from that between the blue buff and the dragon, and it's spotted out simply on the retreat, and this made it that much easier for Maxi to come across. Here's
we're going to see the 1v1 again.
Okay.
Right. So we will get a bit more of a clear idea of what happened here. He just takes a heck of a lot of grass trades. It looks like Neil. So Neil managed to get the Q pull through, and at level 9 when he maxed out the ability, wins the mini game, and he just cuts down Doxy. It's like, were it not for the laws of this land, I would have cut you down where you stood, and he just kind of does it anyway.
And the timing on chopping that watermelon into a few pieces was perfect from the ninja. Bit of Fruit Ninja being played there, and as a result, Neil able to get that kill onto Doxy.
Now only the second best mobile game you can play after League of Legends.
Wild Rift coming soon, question mark. Second Herald is just about spawning. We've already had 2 dragons. Both of them have gone over to end, so they're giving themselves a potential win condition there. As you can see from the various bushes that are sprouting out along the rift, it's going to be the Ocean Soul that is available in about 10 minutes.
That's something. Somewhere amongst the madness, mid lane outer turret has fallen from Barrage. That's quite important. That gives Hecarim a lot more ways to play around jungle invade, trying to fly over walls in the jungle, and maybe not having Barrage being able to get towards towers for safety. And given that he's 5-1, has a Trinity Force, and he has the Skirmisher Saver, I really am scared about what he can do on this map right now. And so should Barrage, to be honest.
Yeah, Doxy playing a little bit safer this time around, not wanting to get caught out by the Titanic Hydra Shen or the now Trinity Force Hecarim, who starts up the Herald almost instantaneously. So many members from Barrage on the bottom half of the map, some of them spotted by Vision, that I'm sure Taiki feels safe in taking this one. The question is, will Kavo and Sefe be just as safe, because they've got Maxi lurking in their jungle? He says not to lurk in the jungle. We're just going to come and take this turret for free.
I really appreciate how Max has died 3 times. He just doesn't give a mundo. He's just sat there like, yep, I'm having my farm. I will be here. If you kill me, that's great. I have a passive to use anyway. Let's see what happens with that.
It's, again, Hecarim, who's now playing a little bit of Karthus, going into the opposition jungle. Isn't going to find any camps this time round. Perhaps will turn his attention towards the top lane, where Gangplank is under so much pressure. Can't even step forward to his turret. Has now completed the cull, which is nice for him, as Neil taunts away. Doesn't take himself a turret shot this time. Doxy now caught between a rock and a very, very hard place. The Herald is going to get slammed. Certainly is going to take down the turret, but here come the teleports. Here comes the damage. Dornish lets them come through. It's not enough to kill Neil alive, as Maxi finds himself a double kill. The turret goes bound down, but so does the Hecarim. Syndra finds one onto Lucian with the outplay button, but now has to run for the hill, simply trying to get away from Doxy. Seth will retreat into the night as well. Maxi still continuing the chase. The turret was secured for Ents, but the kills were picked up by Barrage.
Crucial turnaround kill from the Syndra onto the Lucian to stop the Lucian just running everyone down. Gangplank nearly did that by himself. Wendelboe turning that around. This is why the Rakan pick has been put in for Barrage. It just allows the setup for the rest of this Wombo to be so clean. The Cannon Barrage gets an extra couple of ticks with all that CC coming through. And then, of course, the Requiem gets an easy Dark Harvest access.
And here's the replay of how things went down. The second this teleport is channeled, beautifully timed by Barrage, things go from bad to worse.
It does. Simply's trying to keep his distance, but what that means is that he's not really getting a lot of damage at the front end of this. Good Zenith Blade. Looks like Sankox is caught out quite badly there. Then the flash forward comes in. He does need to use the summoner, but Simply at least managed to get that, because look at how low Sefe gets here. You could have definitely seen that being another kill were Lucian to survive that combo.
So what was that? A turret and a kill for 2 turrets in the end. So not that terrible a trade for Ents. Of course, the Dragon of the game is spawning. Seth going aggressive with the Zenith, throws down Solar Flare. Doesn't really get a lot of anything, then gets rooted down. Wendell, though, looking for the potential chase, the potential re-engage. This third Dragon surely is something that Barrage want to be contesting.
I think it is, because of course an Ocean Rift is nothing to be sniffed at. That is one of those game-changing objectives in such a large way. Sefe is slowed, not rooted. Looks like he gets that fine.
Nil has Stand United and Teleport both available, can join this fight at a moment's notice, but for now it's the 5-man unit of Barrage who are looking strong. Stand United is going to come through, and it's Maxi who dies to Nil. The 5v5 is going tightly, but Kavo dies to Doxy on the backside. Taiki having to run away, not able to do so. Doxy going huge in this fight. Wendelboe looking to chase on to Sefe in a bit of support or combat. Neil trying to run away, trying to keep himself alive, not throw any more gold over to Barrage, but they do not give up. Monkeys! Doxy is going to keep finding kill after kill, finding his first 2 of the game and a first Ocean Dragon for Barrage.
This is the first huge team fight win in this game, and it goes to Barrage. It was relatively even before this. Now with the Dragon going down, stopping that soul point being built up by Ans, having a tower being pushed down too, and in both the mid and the bot lane, and of course the huge amount of kills going through across the board to Barrage. This is a massive change in the state of the game for this team.
Teleport comes in from Simply just to secure the wave, keeping up a good CS amount, the same roundabout as Rai has at the moment, with these two people being the leaders for their respective teams. Some crucial items starting to come in now. Storm Raisins and Rapid Fire, both there for the Jhin. Duskblade, Muramana still stacking for the Senna.
It is, and that's Muramana cannot come online soon enough. You can see how frantic these fights are. If you can shut down someone like Doxy when he somehow finds his way into the backside against 3 people, by the way, that can change the fights in its own way. You need to have that extra burst coming down, because if you can kill someone in the duration of the CC from someone like Leona, particularly Maxi, who survived a little bit longer than I expected him to, it can just change that DPS output so much. Going back into the replay now. Yeah. We see the Shen coming in on top of the hacker, and this is what we were worried about. You're diving in, but diving into the Rakan, who gets to turn around, Doxy, who just literally walks into the face of 3 people, gets a barrel combo, gets autos down. Trial by Fire is not an insignificant amount of damage. We can see Senkos just nuking out the Syndra too. That's another source of DPS gone. And ENCE as a whole just could not form their battle lines and take this fight soon enough.
Trying to work out what Maxi managed to kill off Taiki with in the end, and I do believe it was the Requiem that came down that I didn't spot, and there's the Cannon Barrage, which Sefe may have spotted but wasn't able to do anything about.
No, and that's, that was one of the really big things. They took that fight without the Cannon Barrage being up. It came up at the end of it, and it still went that handily towards Barrage. Now you say facing down a 3.5k gold lead, going to be very difficult. Oh, Senkos going for the 1v1.
Yeah, Senkos gets absolutely
bloody hell
by Simply. Senkos overstepping, perhaps thinking he had far more of a power spike there than he did.
Yeah, that's the level down. A lot of AP built up by Simply, and he has gone for the Sword Boots too, not going for anything like, ooh, find the bot lane though.
Yeah, Doxy might be the next one to be called out. ENCE are trying to get some of the gold back into their pockets. More and more strikes coming through from Taiki, but Doxy still lives, and the rest of the team is here. Rai throwing out on crit after crit, finding the damage, finding the slow onto Neil as well. Rai just chasing them down. Maxi throwing down the defile. Now Neil is trying to change it around and does manage to find the kill, but not before he himself dies as well. We can see Curtain Call thrown out. One more shot might be enough to take Steph's life, but it's not going to happen this time round. Kevo trying to take Scuttle Trap away as a little bit of a consolation prize as Wendelboe continues the chase. This man has no limits.
I love how Maxi plays the Karthus. There is just no fear at all.
The passive, buddy.
It absolutely is. Flashes over the wall, trades for a 1-for-1, but he does it in style. As the only AP threat on his team, the more gold he has and the more items he builds up as this very high scaling damage threat, the better it is for his team. I do like how ENCE have managed to disengage from these fights relatively well. It was a bit unfortunate that they couldn't get to Doxy quite in time to finish him off. They kind of switched targets because Doxy ended up moving away. A little bit awkward, but they have managed to get a couple of very crucial turnaround kills in numerous fights.
You did it, Alex. You said the S word, and now we've got to talk about scaling, because this game is now 23 minutes in. We're well into the mid game, and there's only the 2,000 gold lead for Barrage, which is perhaps not as much as we or even our analysts would have thought they would have been able to build up at this point. As the game goes later and later, we have a little look, and we see Kevo who's going to have more and more stacks. Hopefully production will be able to tell us how many you've done at the moment. Doxy, of course, playing the Gangplank. We know what that can do. What else are we looking towards?
There's 45 stacks for the Senna production is telling us. I'd also really like to see how many Dark Harvest stacks Maxi was on. We've heard that. So Maxi, when he was playing the Lilia the other day, had something like 10 stacks in almost like as many minutes. It was something like 10 stacks in 13, 40 minutes, which was similarly quite ridiculous. By the way, Maxi is also at 10 right now, which is still a decent amount, and he has himself a death cap. He hasn't gone for the full Morellonomicon buy, he has gone for the full DPS build. He is going to be absolutely just dropping bricks on ENCE.
We may well come back to that discussion in about a minute's time, because we've got 35 seconds until another Ocean Dragon spawns, and you've got to feel these two teams are ready to fight. Key summoners are available, ultimates available for every single one of the units on the map, apart from the Requiem that's not quite up for Maxi just yet.
No, that's a big scatter of the week. Gets a bit of a chunk onto Doxy.
Right,
Gangplank's it. Oh, it absolutely does. This is an absolute ARAM. This is a big Hecarim. Doesn't engage.
I thought he was going to go in there, but instead it's going to be an obliteration of Doxy. He won't be able to put out damage in this fight because he's goddamn dead. In goes Wendelboe, as he always does. Finds himself a massive knockup, a massive taunt, but Sefe lives courtesy of the Dawning Shadow. Wendelboe having to flash himself over the wall. Taiki looking to go aggressive as well, as the Stand United is going to come in on top of it. Maxi finds the kill onto Taiki, and Syndra finds one onto the Karthus. However, in the end, it's going to be Maxi's Carpus who finds the roots. But a triple, baby! It's going to be running away for the hills. It's Simply who has to flash himself out at the very last second to not be the Quadra. And it is an absolute decimation as Barrage find themselves more kills and a second Ocean Dragon.
It's just so much damage out of this Barrage lineup. If you don't kill the carries on the initial engage, they end up turning around a massive amount. They kill Doxy early into that fight. Again, no Cannon Barrage for that. It just doesn't matter. Ents overcommit once more. They go in with the Hecarim Shen combo without the Slaughter Shadows, which is used earlier in the fight to try and zone out Senkux. And it went from it just went so bad once they didn't have that dedicated lockdown onto so many mobile high damage carries.
A 2,000 gold lead has become a 3,000 gold lead. One dragon has become 2. Soul Point has been denied again. Barrage looking better and better in these mid-game fights. They've still got a deathless Jhin at 3-0 and 8, as we see in this replay.
Yeah, and Rai, even though he's sometimes the unsung hero, he is absolutely popping off this game. He's just never under threat. He's just sat here trying to put out damage. This is a crucial CC landing onto Dox. He just used his oranges to get rid of the Scout of the Week. And we see what Simply can do with this huge burst build out of the center, not going for any kind of defensive stats on that front. Wendelboe, though, gets so much work done. As the onslaught of Shadows is put through, everyone else is knocked up and charmed. They can't follow up. Even when the Shen ult comes through after that point, well, there's no follow-up because the team's been split so much and the damage has been done. Maxi dies, sure, cool, whatever. He's got damage from Beyond the Grave, making full use of that passive. Leona can't recall quick enough, goes down to the Dark Harvest, and the route afterwards is what really makes things go from bad to worse. Curtain Call, still available, all things said and done, and the cleanup is mighty impressive.
And of course, we know with the Gangplank, has to be very, very careful, because if you remove Scurvy once, you can't remove Scurvy again for a while if you happen to catch it again. So it's, you know.
And, speaking of that, Doxy's dead.
Yeah. So this is why he has to be careful. You know, I'm literally talking about it at the time.
Yep.
So.
Yes, that is a death timer on the screen. Actually, that's going to embolden Ents to maybe look for a Baron play, but with that's a quick spot from Wendelboe. Doesn't find anything though.
No, Kabo able to step himself out of safety. In goes Taiki so aggressively looking for Rai, who flashed himself over the wall. Here comes Neil, cuts in Standing Knight, looking for the taunt, not able to connect. And there's the Dawning Shadow. Rai still taking damage. If he goes down now, this is crucial. Bye-bye, Mr. Danish Rai. He is gone, and this could spell Baron for Ents.
It could do. They did commit a lot of time and members towards the bottom side of the map before, and what that has meant is that now Doxy is alive and well. Blue side Gangplank really good at disengaging from Baron, because if you start tanking up that objective, he puts the Cannon Barrage down, and you have to walk outside the pit to try and disengage from it. Wendelboe might be face checking.
Death Bush comes through, and down goes Wendelboe for the third time this game. Damage is going to come through from Doxy, who has now respawned, doesn't have the Cannon Barrage available. There is still this power play available with both the bot lane still dead. That's going to be enough for Ents to start this one up. Taiki has gone over vision in heading his way over to this Baron, and you've got to assume the contest is all coming through. Scout of the Week is immediately cleansed by Doxy. Sephic taking a little bit of damage as Senka steps forward so bravely, but the Baron is already down to half health. There was a little bit of vision on this from Maxi a moment ago as he throws down the control ward, looking for a potential steal. He is 2 levels up as he throws down the Requiem. So much damage going to come in onto multiple members of Ents. They're forced to step away from the Baron to let it reset. Doxy, however, gets called out by a Scout of the Week. It's going to be Senka stepping forward, saving the life of the Gangplank for now as the curtain call is open up. 1 shot connect, 2 shot connect, 3 shot connect, 4 shot connect, and that is a very dead Kavo. Senkux is the one who secures the kill. Hit Maxi is going to die over to Taiki whilst it's all going down, but the shutdown onto Simply is there from the Lucian, and yet again, Barrage have routed it.
And somehow this keeps happening. It's in the strangest ways. This time it's with the Karthus flank with the blast cone, which immediately gets Maxi killed, but he flashes forward, gets the damage down. We know how much damage he will do with the Dark Harvest, with the Runic Echoes. Just land 1 single target Q, and that's pretty much a Syndra or a Senna out of that fight. Even with the jungler down and the enemy jungler alive, it will be Barrage taking the Baron, because they just won that fight so handily.
And of course, there's no flash available on Taiki because he's running Ghost. No Onslaught of Shadows as it was used in the fight. This was a free and easy secure for Barrage. They looked like they were about to lose the Baron. Instead, they claim it for themselves, and they find themselves in a 5,000 gold lead at near 30 minutes.
The Baron has come at just the perfect time for Barrage 2. They get to reset, they get to push out the map, and there is a minute left on that Dragon spawn, which is another big objective. Want to deny that soul point once again, and possibly get themselves onto that soul point too. They get to push out this mid lane as they do right now, and they're very happy with the map state.
And it's one thing to get to soul point, it's another thing to have 3 stacked Ocean Souls if they were able to get that. So much better than, you know, just securing Ocean Soul with having 2 random dragons and 2 oceans. Meanwhile, Wendelboe have to be very, very careful. He keeps getting caught out. So far, he's only died 3 times, and it feels like it's been so many more. No offense intended, Wendelboe, because you are having a blinder. He's looked for the quickness, simply uses the stopwatch, keeps himself alive, flashes away, and the Stand United coming down on his head, but it means it's not there for Seth, who has to flash himself out. Meanwhile, the root is going to connect onto Kavo, who also flashes out. So many summoners being burned, and the Baron-empowered team Barrage are still looking to push forward onto Ence's base.
The Storm Raiser of Wall of Pain are just making sure that Barrage can kind of soft engage. If someone gets caught out too far out of position, they will get chased down by the ample amount of damage from Barrage. Another W landing from Kavo. He's being very accurate with those. That is actually what's ended up winning a lot of these fights for Ents, but now they have to survive the siege, and the curtains have been called.
Here we go again. Sepe takes one shot, Neil blocks the second. Taiki dashing forward, looking to try and save the turret, but it's too late for that one. Wendelboe escapes to the safety of the 3 remaining members. Meanwhile, Gangplank is split pushing in the bot lane, getting yet more of an advantage for Barrage. They've pushed that lead further and further ahead. Right now, Barrage, our tournament favourite, are making no sign of quitting, of letting up. They do not want to make the mistakes they made in Game 2 against Absolve the other day. Ents doing everything they can to keep the wolf from the door, but it's so tough. Taiki goes aggressive onto Doxy, who steps himself out. The inhibitor's already died to Rai's hand. Doxy trying to chase away. Seth having to step back, being flanked by 3 members of Barrage, coming down to half health. Doxy comes in, lands himself a parlay. The taunt is going to connect, and Maxi is going to die, simply finding one. Senko returns the kill straight back onto Seth. And look at the damage that Rai's got. He's 5, 1, and 10. Scatter will land onto 3. That's enough to keep some people alive for now. Senko's looking to find the kill onto Sefe. It's not going to happen, and the Nexus turrets are under threat. That's another scatter coming in from Symphony, and it might be enough to save the game for now for Ents.
Oh, man, Senkox was just angling. Blood was in the water. They're trying to defend the inhibitor, but it's just gone.
Have they overstayed, though? Is this the potential turnaround that Ents need? They're not able to find any picks on the back of the inhibitor being downed.
Somehow they're not, but they will still take another scrappy fight. The Ocean Dragon is alive. We talked about it, maybe it being a nice objective to have. Barrage, screw that.
Fight!
Absolutely. It's another route coming through. A lot of the key ultimates down for Barrage, but they're still winning the fight. Cannon Barrage goes down.
Just lost a Nexus turret, though, Alex. Like, while this is all happening, while they're fighting over a potential 3rd dragon, they're losing their base. Onslaught Shadows won't be available because Taiki's clearing minions, trying to stop the 2nd Nexus turret from going down. It won't fall, but the dragon will. 3rd Ocean Dragon for Barrage, and right now it looks like there's no stopping them.
The question was asked, will these teams take this game seriously? Do they care about seeding? It's a best of one.
Yeah.
Turns out, hell yes, they will. Barrage, the old Riddle roster, they fell to some unfortunate seeding in the EU Masters plans. They will not suffer the same in this NLC Fall Open. They really want to get the most they can out of it, and they're playing with style right now.
Potential collapse coming onto Taiki will get slowed down by the wall and have to use the Onslaught of Shadows defensively there. Not good times for the pony. Meanwhile, on the other side of the rift, Maxi, who gave away that first blood, is now 8, 8, and 9. The Rabadon's death cap is completed alongside the Void Staff, and that is not a nice situation for Ents to be having to deal with as they try to defend what is left of their base.
There's very, very little left of it. As you were saying during that last Ocean Dragon dance. Oh, that's going to be Wendelboe caught up.
He does get caught, but he's got so many dashes. He gets to the safety of his team. Wendelboe, as I said, the man has no limits. And now that he has uber health, he's able to just dash freely where he likes. Shen trying to get some kind of a split push going against the super minions. But it's going to mean that Barrage, even though their Baron has now timed out, will take this final inner turret. They will have taken 11 turrets on the Rift. And they will only need one more to expose the Nexus.
Wendelboe has no right surviving the amount of damage he has taken during this game. He's got 3 deaths, half the deaths of Sefe. We were talking about how Ents make the enemy support sweat. They make him struggle. And in this game, it's Wendelboe that's coming out in this very key matchup.
Oh, Sepe looking to potentially go aggressive. This could be the last chance for Ents to find
Look at him, he
themselves
just walks at them.
because they have got supers pushing in the mid lane and on the bottom half of the map. They might be about to lose their final inhibitor turret as well. Barrage pushing in, looking to end the game.
They have the siege. The curtains are open once more.
Curtain call comes through. This is going to be good damage as Gangplank comes in with the flank. Taiki able to get a bit of disruption, but gives his life for that cause. Senkups, who had the slowest of starts, trying to prove why he's one of the most highly valued players in this tournament, finding himself yet another. Rakan finishes off the turret, finds a knockup as well. Doxy steps forward, does have to flash away as he steps a little deeply under that final Nexus turret, but the inhibitor is now gone. Almost every structure that once belonged to Ents is a ruin now. Simply finds a scab of the week.
Senkups?
To get the damage on the Senkups with the shield coming in from Wendelbow. The Lucian survives. Kavo looking for a flank, looking for damage. The Dawning Shadow comes in. That's not enough, buddy. In goes the Zenith Blade. Dead goes Sephi. Neil now one of the final people standing between Barrage and winning this game because Kavo can't do anything. The fourth shot connects and Rai finds a sixth kill. Now the Nexus is exposed and it is going to be game to Barrage. They will secure themselves a place in the final and a top 2 seeding for the NLC Fall Cup.
It's hard fought from Barrage, and we've seen that a little bit throughout the games that we have covered from them, but make no mistake, they were the better team in this game. The scoreboards say it, and it is a well-earned victory for them. Okay, so...
Right, what a game that was, Alex. Absolutely fantastic to cast, and Ents played their part and really showed why they've been able to step up, secure themselves qualification as well, even if they weren't able to quite take down the absolute behemoths that are Barrage. Nymera, any particular one standout performance from either team that you want to give praise to there?
Oh, Wendelbow. Wendelbow, absolutely. He's playing into a matchup which he has no right succeeding that well into, and he was the linchpin around the Wombo combo that Barrage had built. This is why the Leona wasn't picked. It's because the Rakan allows you to have that very, very long range, several screens away if you're using the Shurelias, just running just hell for leather at the enemy team. I think that he had a bit of an awkward early game, had some awkward struggles, but then he managed to just turn it on a dime and have a wonderful performance.
More terrific stuff here at the NLC Fall Open qualifiers on Square One. I'm Stanley Greyheart. You can go follow me on Greyheart99 if you want. And this is Alex Nymera Hapgood. Go find him at Nymera. Also, go and check out our fantastic analyst desk, who you're going to get to hear more from after this short break.
Well, we just saw Barrage stamp their place in the NLC Fall Open Qualifier Week 1 finals, and definitely a dominated performance from then. Welcome back to the analyst desk. I'm Viper, joined by Swift and Milo, the coach, once again. And guys, we predicted that Barrage were going to win, but maybe it wasn't as confident as we thought initially.
Yeah, I think you saw at the beginning of the game kind of what Milo predicted would happen with Barrage trying to flex their mechanical muscles very, very early on into the game with an invade that should have gone a lot worse than it did. Milo, I know that you were pretty kind of upset that they didn't get punished on that, so I'll let you talk about that instead.
Yeah, it definitely should have been harder punished. I think we can go a little more into it later on. Like, I think we'll maybe get more into it later on, but like, yeah, definitely they should have been way, way harder punished for what they did there. But yeah, as you said, it was basically early on they kind of got more into like realizing they can't just do that and like start playing as a team instead.
Yeah, I mean, definitely evolution for both of these sides throughout the course of the game, but Classic. We've got to start with it. The picks and bans, how the teams decided to set themselves up going into this one. And why don't you guys, Swift, why don't you start by talking us through what were the most interesting points? Because I was sitting in here with you guys with picks and bans going on and a lot of interesting analysis and maybe a couple of decisions that you really liked from both these teams and a couple that you were maybe not so keen on.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that they banned the Barrage started off with the TF Camille. So they really kind of didn't. I thought that's kind of something that they would want to opt into. But instead of what they did was they took away the options of the 131. The strongest, I think, 131 coming out onto this patch, which is the TF Camille with a carry jungler in it. And then they opted into this really, I think, the more interesting of the two compositions, this long range siege comp where you have the Cannon Barrage coming in, followed up with the Requiem and then the culling, and it's all set up by the Jhin Deadly Flourish and his ult as well. Rakan, I think, is more acting kind of in a counter engage measure because you don't really have that much follow up aside from like the GP Cannon Barrage coming in on the Rakan. But that's kind of what they want to do. They want to drop the Cannon Barrage and set up their kill onto whoever the target that overextends is. And I think they got better at that as the game went on. And then on red side, I think from ENCE you have a much more kind of standard comp with the dive potential coming in. But I mean, Karthus wants you to dive in, so it's kind of, it's not the best setup for it.
I mean, I absolutely agree with all that. Of course, I'm a low-level host play-by-play, so all of your analysis goes straight over my head, but it all sounds correct, so that's fine. Milo, is there anything that Swiffers maybe missed or anything that you really want to deep dive into in these drafts or how they were kind of built before we jump into what actually happened on the Rift?
Well, one thing I know me and Swiffer were talking about during the draft was this Karthus pick. We weren't really big fans of it, like at least not as a B2 pick. Early picking Karthus in this situation can be very dangerous, can be very punished. Personally, we would both rather have seen something like the Evelynn here. We haven't really seen him actually on it, so we're not sure whether he actually plays it, but like we feel like the Evelynn would have done a lot better. But they end up making the Karthus really work. But it's a high risk as you have to get into a position where you can let him power farm, let him get strong. And we also saw they kind of overestimated his early strength with the first dragon, where they really got punished for actually having a Karthus pick instead.
Yeah, we're going to move on to that, but of course, Lilia, Nidalee, and Graves all being banned out in that first rotation does mean the jungle pool was a little bit pinched. Would love to see Evelynn on the Rift, though, always a fun champion to watch. But with those teams going on to the Rift there, I was a little bit worried when we got into it because we all said Barrage going to be going to finals pretty comfortably, but in the early game, it seemed like ENCE were making all of the plays, and while a couple of them were pretty over-aggressive, I would say, suboptimal in cases, they looked like they were pulling all the strings, and in the early game, it seemed to be working for them.
Yeah. So what actually I was really impressed by with ENCE was was how they were actually controlling the tempo of the game. I think it was a really ill-timed contest on the first Drake by Barrage, but then that kind of threw control of the game directly into ENCE's favor. And I think that the way that they chose, or the objectives that they chose to focus on, and the sides of the map that they chose to focus were, I do think, incorrect at times. I think that the Hecarim playing into topside when the Shen had TP, had ult, sorry, I think that was a mistake. I think being able to block your bot side jungle from being invaded and to then transition that pressure up after you give your bot side some control into the Herald is a much better play there. Because you saw what happened was ENCE were in control, but yet Barrage were able to trade very effectively a lot of the time. And then when they did go for that one really big play, dive onto topside, Barrage were already there to counter it because of how quickly they had countered the bot lane play. So yeah, I think that ENCE showed a lot of signs of promise, but I think that their decision making and around what objectives they decided to do needs a bit of work.
Absolutely. And Milo, you touched on this a little bit when we go through draft. That Karthus pickup, not so able to contest the objectives. What were your impressions with how the earlier stages to the mid stages went? Not trying to step on Swiffer's toes or anything, but speaking specifically about those earlier plays and just moving on into objectives that you'd think Ents would be completely dominant over.
Yeah, well, as Swift was just saying, it's kind of like Ents were leading the stance here. They just were leading in a wrong direction. So they had a lot of decision making. They were the very reactive one or proactive ones, while Barrage had to be very reactive to them. But because they had a few good things, as we were talking about before, they had this dragon where Ents realized, okay, this is Karthus. He's not even level 6 yet. He's early game. We can fight this. We can get this first dragon. But else, rest of the time, it was very much they were the one leading. They were the one making decisions, but they just weren't making the right decisions. And Barrage were really good at punishing when Ents were making these wrong decisions.
And being able to play in that kind of reactive style almost, and letting Ents come to you and say, okay, we're confident that you've got a little bit of a lead maybe, but you're making decisions that aren't necessarily optimal, and letting them come to you with it. Is that something that, as a coach yourself, that seems like a really good skill, to be able to not have to say we need to be doing something now, but just kind of to let your opponent beat themselves almost?
Honestly, it is kind of like that, but it's also I don't actually think that Barrage had the tools to be able to force a play when they were in the position that they were in. I think that playing reactively into Ents was almost the only thing that they could have done, and they just executed it very, very well. So yes, it is like, I think that the thing that kind of sold me between the two teams was that, okay, Barrage kind of in the early game flexed their muscles and it didn't really work out too well, but then they're the ones that actually legitimately had the patience to wait, whereas Ents would get the setup and pull the trigger immediately and often at the wrong times. And to me, it just shows a lack of maturity on one side and maturity on the other.
I'm going to have to just quick breaking news for everyone in the other side of the bracket. Viking have just beaten Team Singularity in the other side of the bracket, which means that we are going to see Barrage taking on Viking in the final on stream later. But that's a massive upset. We can get onto that one in a couple of minutes. But Milo, talk to me through the rest of the game. How did Barrage come out from these reactive positions to win the game?
Well, they were keeping up this like patience. They weren't in a position where they had to make the plays. They didn't need to make the calls. They were just always slowly waiting for Ents to actually make a call, make a play, make the engage, and then they would just flip it on its head. We had a very good example in the mid lane where Ents ends up getting a catch on Doxy. He ends up straight up dying. And it looks like it's going to go real good for Ents. We have a good engage onto Lucian with the Hecarim ultimate and everything. But then because of the way that Barrage was just playing it backwards, they were just playing it slowly going backward, and Ents was just going to keep going forward. They could just suddenly find the right position to turn this whole fight. And that was just what they did throughout the whole game. They would just wait for Ents to pull the trigger, and then they would play smarter.
And playing smart is eventually what led them to that victory. And it's something that we've been impressed by Barrage this entire tournament for a lot of different reasons. And today was definitely not Barrage just able to skill check every single lane and win because they're better players, which is something we've seen from them a little bit this tournament. But it was definitely a more smart Barrage who knew how they were playing together. And Ents, Swiffer, at time looked a little bit disconnected, especially towards the end of the game. I know you mentioned saying like communication may not be fully there the same way that Barrage have it. How important is that when you're in a competitive match of this caliber, semifinals of this qualifier? Yes, you're already qualified, but how much does communication lead towards victory?
Yeah, I think that there was a really big disconnect between the front line and the back line of Ents. I think as we just touched on, Milo, you were talking about the mid fight. I think that you saw the first signs of that kind of happening, where you have that really good fight, like Doxy dies, you get the flash out of the Lucian, and then the Hecarim overcommits when the cannon barrage comes down onto the back line. There's no reason with the Shen'el on top, there's no reason for the front line to go for that play when you've already gotten everything you need and there's two objectives up on the map and you're just funneling into a semi-choke point almost. The really big thing that I think you can see where the communication falls apart is at the end of the game. You have that kind of setup that I was talking about with all the ults coming straight onto the Syndra with the cannon barrage opening and the Requiem and the culling and the deadly flourish. And as Syndra is on, I'm going to say something around 200 health or thereabouts, you see Karthus channeling the Requiem, Shen ulting the Syndra, Hecarim jumping into the Karthus, and Syndra Zonyazing herself and becoming invulnerable. It just seems like his own team is reacting to what he's going to do as well as the enemy, and that's something that you never want to see out of your own team. You want to be able to be predictable to your teammates, and that's something that I think ENCE were lacking.
Absolutely, and that's kind of a perfect example of how different brains work in League of Legends. Because all of that analysis, for me, when I saw the play, I was like, Syndra didn't need to use Zhonya's because Shen was ulting. But then having the Hecarim involved as well, and the whole frontline situation,
Yep.
it's just it's how much you see on the map is definitely the difference between high level coach and gold for hard stock solo player. Milo, give me your final bit of analysis. Give me the big round out comment. What was the difference between these two teams, and what do Barrage need to look to do to improve and take down Viking in the final?
So I think I want to kind of boil the difference down to one word, and I want that word to be experience.
Okay.
Not that ENCE doesn't have experience, like we talked about before the game. This roster has played together in last NLC as well, so it's not like they don't have experience together. But I think there has been some disconnect or like experience issues in a way with like when it comes to communication, in my opinion. So a lot of these players, since it is a full Finnish team, they haven't had the same. They haven't had. I know a lot of them haven't been out and like in around like Europe and like in bigger tournaments as well before this. So I want to say a lot of it came down to, as we're talking about, this communication issues, kind of like the playstyle wasn't really fitting them, or like they weren't really sure what their playstyle was supposed to be with this comp, I believe, in a way. So not necessarily only communication between the players, but also between the staff, even, because the staff has probably helped them gain this comp, and they just weren't sure what to do with it.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see if Viking and Barrage, which way it's going to go. But let's get quick predictions before we round out this analyst desk. Swiffer, we're going to go to you first. Viking or Barrage? Who do you think is going to be taking that one?
Well, I'm pretty familiar with Barrage. I think that they're going to take it. I think that the opening minutes of this game were kind of a bit of a wake-up call to them. I think that, as Milo was saying, this game kind of forced them to remember what it was like to play together as a team. Now that the caliber has leveled up, so I'm going to say that because of this game, Barrage. And I haven't seen the Viking game, but I mean, kudos to them. But I think that Barrage are the clear favorites here.
Do you agree, Milo?
I agree. I had a quick look, and it was a very bloody game, the Viking game. And well, from what we've seen Barrage so far, like they thrive in bloody games. So I definitely think Barrage will still take it.
Interesting. I'm going to believe in Viking. The dream is going to become reality. They're going to be able to beat Barrage in the final. Of course, both teams already qualified, as well as ENCE and Singularity, who did lose out on this one. But that's going to wrap us up on this analyst desk. But still more League of Legends to be done, because Square One will be bringing you the final as well. That's currently slated for 4:30 CST. I believe it's CST. My time zones are not good. Everyone refuses to do British Standard Time, even though I always ask them to. But we're going to be jumping to a break, and when we come back, it will be that final. Keep your eyes peeled on at SQ1 League on Twitter, because there's a chance that the game may start a little bit earlier. But when we return, it'll be a new look analyst desk with Trajan, Temporal, and Nightmare talking us through what they think is going to happen. So thank you for myself, Swiffer. Thank you for joining us all the way from Australia. I know it's a little bit later for you there, but thank you very, very much for being with us and giving us the high-level analysis. Milo, of course, also pleasure to have you as always. Any final words from you two before we jump off?
No, thank you for having me. Really appreciate the invite. Got me just before bed. So no, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to watch the NLC, even though we couldn't be competing in it. And yeah, it was a really fun game. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, same. Thank you for having me. A little good night to Swiffer, because it's getting late there, I'm here, I'm guessing.
Thank you.
But no, yeah, thank you for having me, and it's been very, very fun to watch Barrage pop off.
It was an absolutely amazing game. Swiffer's going to bed. We're going to a break, but we'll see you in a couple of hours.
You are not Viper.
Axis is this.
girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I like the girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done. I like the girls with their nails done now.
Welcome back, everybody, to Square One's coverage of the NLC Full Open Qualifier 1. I am Trajan, back on the analyst desk once again, but this time I am in control, and I've brought two of the biggest, wrinkliest brains in Square One to back me up, the brothers Hapgood, Nymera, and Initialize. Now, gents, on a scale of 1 to Fnatic versus Top Esports, how sad are you that the qualifier is almost over?
Oh, it's been such a. I mean, first off, I got to say, it's been really fun working on this whole production. So, it's to everyone in the back room and to, of course, you two lovely people as well. Big thanks to you guys. It's been a real ride.
Yeah, it really has. My heart is breaking all over again. Square One's coverage this weekend is ending. Fnatic's run is ending. It's all going wrong. But I'm really looking forward to being on the desk. I'm really looking forward to being here for the finals. One last big hurrah.
Absolutely. So we do have a little bit of information being dropped by the NLC admins to kick us off. We are going into the final here, and we can now talk quickly about the seeding. So a quick overview of how that system will work for the Full Open proper. All of the teams will be seeded into 4 pools. During the group draw, 1 team from each pool will be drawn into each of the 4 groups, so fairly reminiscent of the world system. But the important thing to note here is that first and second place from Qualifier 1 will go into Pool 1. So the teams here are playing for pride primarily, and that is a big deal for one of our contestants here, Vikings.
We didn't expect them to be here. Bluntly put, we had a favorites graphic. We said, let's go look into these teams and who is going to qualify. Well, it's probably going to be a lot of the NLC teams. Which ones are we going to pick? Sure, cool, whatever. Vikings were not in our shortlist, and they have blown our expectations out of the water. They're here, and now on the biggest stage, they have a chance to take a pretty big scalp.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And it's like, as well, not to take things away as well, but I remember on that first analyst desk we had on the Friday, we said, yes, we have these favorites, but I also made the point to say that, look, this is a lot of new rosters, this is a lot of new teams, new coaches, all the rest of it, and there is an opportunity here to make a name for yourself, and Vikings have done just that, and hell, they can make an even bigger name for themselves here right now.
Yeah, for sure. We can't underestimate the effect of best of ones as well in these final 4 teams. There's a lot of upsets that can happen very suddenly, and Vikings, it's not been the cleanest journey, I'd have to say. They did pull an FF win over Nordavind last in their previous round, but they haven't squandered that opportunity. As you said, they've come here, they've looking to take another big scalp, and they took down Singularity in the last match, which was a favorite for us. So we're looking at the Vikings team graphic on your screen right now. From what we know, I'm going to be honest, guys, we didn't expect to see this team too much, so we don't know too much about them coming in, but is there anything that really stands out?
Well, there's one thing. There's a person who plays in the jungle role who is a bit of a lunatic. This guy Sharp, he is an absolute monster, behemoth. You look at the match history for what they pulled over Singularity and the other streams that were covering it too. This guy went 10-2 and something on Shyvana Jungle, which AP Shyvana Jungle is something which so Sam and I have done. We've ended up watching a lot of the Vietnamese teams this year, and they've made it kind of meta over there. So it's not so surprising to us, but to see it brought out in this setting and for it to flourish so effectively, it's really fun to see.
Exactly that. We have had the pleasure of doing some analysts for the likes of Levy and the likes of it, and that means that people who do pull out these ridiculous AP junglers are popular with myself and Nymera, and I'm really looking forward to see what Sharp can do. And I think if Viking do want to take on the titans that are Barrage in this tournament, then the likes of Sharp really do need to step up.
Yeah, and I think it's what's really interesting for me about the Shyvana pick is that it's still kind of a farming jungler. It's a carry jungler, but it's not Graves, it's not Nidalee. It's playing into the meta, but doing it in your own way, and you kind of have that bit of extra flexibility in that draft that can let teams like Vikings upset people and really surprise people coming out of the games. One of the favorite things I've had about this tournament is the amount of pocket picks we've seen throughout this whole setup, and I'm hoping honestly that we get to see at least one more.
It'd be cool to finish off the finals, finish off the qualifiers, at least the first one with a bit of a bang. You're talking about, these aren't, it's a bit of a farming jungler. It's not the Graves, not the Lilia and stuff like that. Well, I think Sharp kind of makes anything into a farming jungler. He Flame Horizon in both sides of the Hecarim Lilia matchup.
That's insane.
In his best of win in one of his best of threes, which is a bit crazy to think about. I think a lot of that will come from how the team plays around his jungle pathing too. I think that's always a big part of how junglers go about getting farm, go about being out on the map. So I'm really looking forward to how Viking, as this team we have less information on, because of course we've been covering Barrage quite a lot this tournament, and see how they can deal with Barrage and how they've been very, very good at coordinating their team.
Absolutely. So, as we say now, Vikings, they're definitely not here by accident. They've got plenty to pull out, but they have an absolute behemoth sitting across the rift roller here. This is Barrage, as you say. We've covered them a lot. There's a lot to cover with this team, a lot of power in this roster. I guess we'll go to Initialize here. How do you think, what do Vikings need to target? What do they need to look at across at Barrage and think, what do we have to deal with?
So we have seen it when they did lose their one game over to the side of Absolved, was if you can catch the top side of the map playing a little bit cocky, you can put them behind. The likes of Sandgux and Doxy are fantastic players. They really are. We've been over their storylines ad infinitum, and probably is worth bringing them up again. These two are really, really damn good. So is Maxi. But if you can get them a little bit behind, they don't like to play like they're behind. They can be caught out being a little over aggressive. They can be caught out if they go for a play and you've got a couple globals or a couple of teleports, you can catch them with their pants down, so to speak. So that's probably my play to you, is if you can track what's going on in those solo lanes, catch them being a little over aggressive, and punish the attempted plays with some teleports of your own, you can put them behind them, continue to anti-snowball against them.
Yeah. And I think for me, it kind of goes on to that too, but it's about priority lanes, because Barrage looked really good with priority lanes. You don't lose gracefully versus Barrage, you just lose. You don't have to take one of those matchups like Shen into GP or something like that and just be like, oh, we'll have the global at some point, because we saw what Doxy can do on that pick. If you let through the Lucian, and I'd imagine that Barrage, being the highest, he will choose blue side. I actually haven't heard about that. That's going to be a threat. I think you just ban away the Lucian. You can't let that happen. Get yourself priority lanes. Make sure that Sharp has a platform to just muscle out Maxi, who has also been very, very good. They have some shared champions too, so this jungle matchup is going to be really fun to watch. But I think for me, it all starts from that draft phase, as so many games do. It does, because that's how League of Legends works. But
let me put this in perspective, guys. Any team that can crush someone in a quarterfinal matchup 19 minutes and 30 seconds is a team to be feared, and they did that versus Absolve in the first game. Yes, they lost the second, but any team that can do that is someone you need to be very afraid of, and you need to look at what happened in that win to try and prevent that from happening to you.
Yeah, I mean, if we look back at their semifinals as well, both of these games went very long. They went very scrappy, very even golden kills throughout. Dragon Souls were taken, I believe, in the Singularity Vikings game. All 7 possible, non-Elder Dragons were taken. So Vikings, they're clearly able to go the distance. They're able to stick it out in these long, messy games. Do you think that's going to favor them in this matchup of Barrage? If Barrage don't get that 19-minute snowball-style victory, are they able to actually keep that quality up as the game goes longer?
Good question. I think that Barrage has had very good late game team fighting. I think that the one game, of course, which we'll keep referring back to, that Absolve lost, because it is so significant, we didn't expect them to lose at that point. That was one where they were fighting before they were ready, kind of in the mid game. I think if it ever gets towards late game, Barrage has shown that they can just outfight even without some key tools available. In the semifinal, which I was just casting, they took several fights without Cannon Barrage, without Requiem, and it just didn't matter. They just knew how to output DPS, protect their carries. I think Wendelbow in particular did a really good job of layering CC onto the carries which wanted to try and follow up onto their team, and just made the team fights very, very easy for them.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really excited to get into this one. We've had a quick turnaround for you guys here. The players wanted to get stuck into this match just as fast as everyone, all the viewers at home. Exactly, right? We want to get right in here to get this first qualifier, to find out who is going to top this bracket up. I have been Trajan here hosting this desk with Nymera and Initialize. We are going to throw over to Temporal and Darksil to take this game one away. This is the final. It's a best of one. Anything could happen. Take it away, guys.
Yes. I mean, I can't be seen, but okay. To the grand finals. Well, I can't be seen on my side anyway. I'm joined
Oh,
by
Nightmare!
and the screen is wrong, Reed. It says Greyheart and Nightmare on my end, but I'm Dark Soul. Joining me is Temporal for this finals. It is Barrage versus Vikings, and I think it's going to be a banger, even though it is just a best of one. Temporal, what are your feelings on these two teams? You casted Vikings earlier on, and I was the one
did.
casting Barrage.
So, Barrage tournament favorites. Viking, I was not aware of. I did a little bit of prep for this tournament. Viking look pretty good. A lot of the teams look pretty good, but then you look at things like Barrage, look at teams like Singularity, and like, that's a safe bet. Viking was not a safe bet, but here we are. They're in the finals, and I'm looking forward to it. I really am. This is going to be like a nice show match to sort of finish off a long weekend of play.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that it's just a best of one because both these teams have finished off all of their rivals. They have won their best of threes and then the best of one in the semifinals. And I think if Barrage takes the win, like I'm kind of expecting them to, like a lot of analysts and casters are expecting them to, that I think it's a shame that we can't have more games so that Vikings can show us really what they're made of. I'm saying it a little bit too early, perhaps. Perhaps they did show some sparks of life, some good things in their best of one and their best of threes. That Shyvana, that AP Shyvana jungle, one of the monsters of their games, and I think it's plays like that and things that we don't generally see in competitive play like that can get them the win in this game.
So let me tell you about Sharp. I'm sure the analysts have
Okay,
just done this. Sharp has played, like, Naikiri was the series I cast. So that was a couple of rounds ago. But Naikiri played both sides of Hecarim Lily.
Yes.
He nearly Flame Horizoned his opponent from each side.
Wait, was he Lily or was he Hecarim?
Both. It was best of three. It
Wait,
was
he
2-0.
he Flame Horizon both? Nearly?
Both ways, just crushed that matchup. And we're in a best of one. You've mentioned there's some pocket picks of stuff like Shyvana. We're looking for that sort of thing to really take the cake, put Barrage off. Because, like, it wasn't that Sharp just farmed and got ahead of his opponent. He killed the lanes as well. That's the Viking completely played through him.
Proactive ganking, exactly what we want to see and exactly what you need to do. You're against the likes of Senkux, you're against the likes of Doxy. In that top lane, you need to make your presence felt. And I think it's all about this top side of the map. It's the jungle mid duo, it's the jungle top lane duo as well. It's just kind of that Trinity force in that top side.
Absolutely. It's going to be. So you mentioned Senkux. Barrage's laners are a little bit stacked. We're gonna have to wait and see where Sharp appears. Good things normally happen, and in a best of one, we can really we can test out something new. This match is just for seeding for next the main tournament, which is not next week. We've got qualifiers again next week.
The 5th or something, I think.
The 5th, yeah, the main tournament.
Weeks from now. Yeah.
Both of these teams will end up in the same pool if the rules stay as they are. So this is just, this is the start of a beautiful relationship.
It's for pride, It's for pride.
For
Power.
pride.
They have to show their stuff. They have to be like, right, we won the open tournament. We won the one that got us here. So we are hopefully, in their eyes, going to win the main event as well. They have to show what they're made of.
Next time it'll be I won that preliminary game. It's on you to do something about it instead of just repeating it away.
It's on you. Step up and get on my level.
That's all going to be set today in this best of one, and I am so excited.
Is there anything that you would like to see prioritized from either of these two teams? Are you expecting maybe the Shyvana ban, or I mean, we've seen Senkux on the likes of Galio and Lucian, and used it really, really well. We saw him on Rise, where he just didn't make his presence felt at all in the game. Then on the top side, we see more of these carry-oriented top laners like GP, Jace, even to some extent Shen, and then the Camille as well, obviously, for the split push.
So Barrage sort of using the same top lane pool as most of the world's tournament. Sort of those high meta tops. That's going to be fine. That's got to continue. Banning out Sharp, I feel, is a mistake. I think his pool is a little too deep. He's shown he can play all meta. He can play the surprises. He can play the things that maybe we weren't expecting to see at this level of play that maybe needed a further adaptation. Shout out to Shyvana again, because she was already pretty good and she was in competitive, but you don't expect these things to just show up out of nowhere. I think we've got to focus on getting Senkux ahead without agency, and then matching the jungler into Sharp and reducing his power like in a direct 1v1 fashion. You've got to match the jungler, make him unable to do what he needs to do to get this Vikings lineup over the finish line.
So how do you want for them to do that? How do you want them to execute that into the draft as we do start
As we
into
move
our
on
draft phase?
Okay, the Malphite takeaway. You make Coolberg not able to play weak side. Malphite was fantastic against Singularity earlier today, so that's just gone. That's gone. I expect to see Ornn gone, similar things gone. Something maybe to support Senkux. If we start seeing target bans towards Senkux, if we start seeing the Lucian going missing, we're going to want to see a small adaptation. Instead, Camille, both sides, aiming at top lane.
Yeah, want to take away those carry or defensive top players. There's the Shyvana ban that I talked about before. We saw it in one of the games where it was the hard carry for Viking. Lucian loves seeing that ban on the red side. Can't be giving that over to Senkux, especially in the first rotation, as it does have flexibility to Doxy and Ray.
Zanadia showed up on Akali and Jace in their series against Nightcurie. So they both play sort of these explosive styles. Senkux, of course, reasonably high tier pro player of many years. The Lilia's gone. They are targeting Sharp. That's it. One thing to get Coolberg like out of the comfort zone. That's it. We're piling on Sharp now. Ooh, okay.
Gotta be targeting that jungle. But before we came on broadcast, we were saying the junglers are the ones that we want to watch. It's Maxi and Sharp. We have to talk about these two junglers. Maxi, we saw him on the Karthus in the last game against ENCE. He was aggressive, something that we don't really see from a Karthus normally. He was flashing in, getting his AoE down, using his ultimate and just destroying ENCE whenever he can, and now he's going to be on the Nidalee.
Okay, B1 Nidalee is a huge statement for Maxi here. It's, I know I can play this carry setup. We all watched Canavi yesterday. Pop off absolutely massively on this. It's been its theme of the season as other junglers get reduced. Normally Nidalee's still there with her power level saying, come at me. You know what? We're just going to pick our junglers straight off the bat. Graves match. Normally not the best matchup for Graves, as your agency is a little limited, but you will always have the safety and knowledge that eventually Doxy will become more of a supportive champion, and Sharp on this Graves will continue to deal massive damage.
And then they lock in the Sylas. A little bit of flexibility still in that pick, but I'm kind of expecting it to be for Zandia in that middle lane. It's kind of where we have seen him more at home with. Well, you think it's
I'm going to interrupt you there. Not true. Viking have done this multiple times. They picked blue side twice in their series versus Nyriki, and they used that double flexibility in the solo lanes to force out not the greatest R5. They always put their pressure on their opponent. Sylas was picked first round, both of those games. Normally we see it matched with something like an Akali, which can still flex, a Jace, which can still flex, and it was against an Ornn, so Sylas Ornn. They sort of had all of this pick potential here, and we're going to see B2 and 3 come through.
B2 and 3 will be the Aurelia. The bans are starting to come through, but the Aurelia and the Jhin is locked in for the side of Barrage. The first Aurelia of the tournament, actually, and expecting that to be into the hands of Doxy. So definitely throwing down the gauntlet there, but they lock in the Pantheon, expecting that to be in the hands of Axes in that bottom lane, as the support wants to be able to go aggressive, wants to punish this low mobility carry in the Jhin, and they're starting to ban away the ones that can start to punish that Pantheon a little bit more, like the Thresh, and expecting one more support ban coming through as well, but they will take away the Senna, something that plays really, really well with that Pantheon.
Okay, a little ambivert played some Jhin in the series I watched previously, or I cast previously. I can't remember if it was Senna or Ezreal, but both of those champions gone as well. Leona. So this Pantheon will not have any tough 1v1s in the bottom.
But what you respond with? What you want to see from Barrage for Wendelboe here? We saw him on the Rakan, we saw him on Leona Tahm Kench Thresh, both of them banned away. So it still leaves that Tahm Kench, but it's not really the traditional one that we see paired up with the Jhin, is they do ban away the Ashe. Want to take away an AD carry or two from that Pantheon. Does leave up the MF though.
So they've removed the direct synergy with lots of stuns so that you can layer that between Pantheon and the AD carry and then continue to do massive damage that those champions are able to do. Instead, we're just going to go Archetypal. We're going to get tons of damage out of this Misfortune. We're going to sort of forget the double stun, the double CC. We're just going to try and shoot people in the face the first time. Tahm Kench still an option here. Ray is going to take away that Jace. So Vikings missing one of their more popular laners. Braum, a bit of El Clasico, pretty effective into Pantheon.
Now, is this going to be top lane Jace with mid lane Aurelia, or top lane Aurelia with mid lane Jace?
Barrage have done a fantastic job of masking their laners as Viking did to win their series versus Nyriki. We don't know, and they still don't have to choose. Both of these players, Senkux and Doxy, able to play both of these picks to a fantastic level, and Viking find themselves at the end of their own sword on red side.
I would prefer to see the Jace into the Sylas. And yeah, that's another gauntlet being thrown down with the Urgot locked in for Coolberg. He is just like, give me some of that. I want to be chewing them up and not even spitting them out. I just want to take their lives and just fear all the minions around me, get these kills.
So, Urgot can go middle here. The players might not play it, so it might be Zanadia in the top lane and Coolberg in middle.
Do you want to chase the Jace with this Sylas?
I think so. It's a bit of a rough matchup. Aurelia really strong at the moment. Not like Sylas doesn't really want some of that. He doesn't have a great time. But yeah, you can chase it around with the Urgot. But then again, Urgot not more of a standard middle pick. So Zanadia might just say, you know what? I'll walk top lane. It's only a little bit longer than middle. You take middle. You get the favorable matchup. We'll go from there. We'll get Sharp enabled. We'll just sit here and make sure we're not exploited by this Barrage lineup that looks to do a massive amount of poke damage, pick up like loads of engages, pull back with the Braum, and then sort of take the fight in their own terms.
I mean, it's probably fine to have the Sylas into the Aurelia because you can steal her ultimate away, but she's just so maneuverable. You're just trying to lock her down. You have your abscond, abduct, you have healing as well. She does. So it feels like it's a bit of a skill matchup, but then you have Maxi waiting off to the side. If he can land a nice spirit, because you don't really have that much maneuverability as the Sylas unless you want to go really aggressive.
It is a bit of a struggle, the Nidalee having slightly more agency onto the middle lane than Graves, but it's a best of one, Dar, so we might as well see the fruity stuff if we can. It's only for seeding. The teams have secured their positions in the same pool of the NLC full open, so instead we'll be looking to sort of push the envelope here and see what they can find out about their opponents.
Well, we are onto the ref for the grand finals. It is only a best of one, and no one is more disappointed than me.
Oh, a best of three series, it would be so much fun.
It would be so much fun, and it looks like they're going for a level 1 here as well, and I like the Braum into the MF as well.
This split is so fantastically set up with Ray out here. He will spot Sharp and Zandia, but that's not a confirmation. He hasn't spotted Axes' Pantheon yet. The level 1 could still go a whole bunch of ways. They've maintained this pixel bush. If Wendelbo tries to get some greedy vision.
Oh, he's going for it. He just throws it.
He knows. All right,
he's like, he's going to go for it and get the ward down.
The less greedy vision.
Dash forward from Coolberg.
Yeah, traded away here. So Maxi gets that ward up onto the top side. Interestingly enough, Coolberg, both games against Nyriki, they had some advanced scouting. I mentioned they're on blue side. Abduct absconded from Baron Pit into the bush where Viking are now. One time gave up first blood, but the other time secured a lot of free vision for his team. Viking starting up here on the red side. Lots of help. Axes isn't near his lane. And has been spotted. Ooh, this could matter a lot for level 1. Expect to see Ray and Wendelbo try and take advantage.
Yeah, be between the AD carry and the wave, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Just zone him away. Winter Spike can come down. We'll tag him, as well as the Dancing Grenade. So we'll force him away from the wave, and he loses all 3 CS from the positioning of Axes.
This is not what you want in a Pantheon lane. Losing your early pressure can really put a stint on how you want to play out the next 10 minutes, and it sets a lot of conditions that Axes and Liambiver just rather wouldn't be involved in.
And now they can just play Gatekeeper here as Coolberg takes a lot of damage to the skies, comes through. He's gonna tower dive this and almost gets the kill.
Phase Rush will get Doxy out of there. Coolberg, unfortunately, taking 99% of his health bar. I think is a fair assessment
At
there.
level 3, he might be able to kill him with the Power Shock Blast.
Oh, maybe. But Coolberg is still level 1, so a real struggle here. Right, Sharp is ready. He's decided he only needs to do red and half his blue side. This level 3 gank will be coming through in just a moment. Cooldown's burnt. He's waiting. He's ready. Here comes Axes.
Gone down. This could be first blood here. Wendelbo has to try and get away. The exhaust goes down. Will buy him time. Oh, flashes forward for the first blood.
Absolutely fantastic work and synergy. It was not telegraphed to the letter. Lambivert and Axis holding all of their cards until the last moment.
Exactly what you want from the Pantheon lane, but Maxi is towards the top side, will miss with the spear, so they're gonna call off this kill. It's the Shock Blast, not powered, so only does a little bit of damage. Senkuk's in a lot of trouble, gets the stun down onto him, forces his flash out, doesn't throw out the Q for the spear. Don't think it had quite enough damage to finish him off either way.
Instead we're going to try and play the farm denial game. We're going to think that's more valuable. Trying to get Senkuks away from this wave. Won't quite be successful this time. Some fancy footwork from Coolberg, but Doxy's TPing back to lane now. Somehow has managed to maintain its flash through all of this.
Coolberg once again taking so much damage in this top side. It is not a matchup that you want to be playing into, especially this early. Level 3 to level 4. He's only down by about 5 CS, but he has to back yet again. He has no TP to reach the lane.
It's 3 backs in 4 minutes is not what you want to be seeing from a solo lane. It's sort of getting to the stage where Sharp's probably going to have to throw the towel in up there and not come over to this top side. We're just going to have to play an incredibly weak side Urgot for the next few minutes. Looks like we're pivoting towards bottom once again. There is vision, but I believe Sharp might know about it.
Yep, looks like he assumed that there was vision there if he didn't know about it for sure. Flash forward, gets the stun down onto the AD carry. Jin should be dead to rights here. One more auto will give it over to the MF. Looking for the second, the double kill come through. And Vikings are 3-0, really taking it to Barrage.
Absolutely fantastic timing. Sharp does it once again. We highlighted that this had happened previously, and it's something to worry about. He shows up for Dragon Spawn, not wasting any time, and Viking are on the board.
And they get this Cloud Drake as well. And you're playing this Jin from behind. You're level 3 to level 4, similar to the top lane, but Kyle reversed, and you're down by a wave and a half. And he can just pick up a BF sword to your boots. He is 1,300 gold ahead almost at this point. And yeah, it's actually about 700-800, but there's also that potential gold there as well, because 500 gold still waiting in the pocket of Ray. So add that on, and it's about 1,300 gold ahead.
That is almost too much at this stage, and for a Viking lane that was choked out at level 1 when Axes wasn't in lane for the first 3 minions, it is stark how this turnaround has come about. The punishing of Ray and Wendelbo without their summoner spells. Bit of a fight about to break out in middle. Both teams bringing the best. Senkuks has gone wide.
Both teams are here. Out comes the Vanguard's edge, but who will pick off the fight? Axis is dead to rights here. Maxi picks up the kill. Looking for Zandia as well, but he's underneath the tower. The last shot will hit, but he doesn't have any damage items just yet, so he does next to no damage there. Maxi still going aggressive onto Sharp. He has the backup of Wendelbo here. He's still going aggressive. Will miss the spear, but the heal comes through. Maxi has to try and back away. The Abduct goes onto the little raptor. They have to piece out here. Axis off to the side. He doesn't have his flash. Doesn't have an ultimate available because he's only level 3. But there was a solo kill on the top side while we're watching all this.
Oh, not too surprising. I think Coolberg suffering the last few minutes has come to a head. Axis still doing so much even at this low level. Something we should highlight out of that fight. Zandia managed to get the ultimate out of Senkuks there. Now, unfortunately, Irelia's ultimate relies on you pushing Q a lot. And Silas just doesn't have this ability.
I mean, he can use his Abscond Abduct to go in, but it doesn't synergize as well. It's kind of like stealing Vayne's ultimate. You kind of just move faster,
Yeah, it's
Pretty
in
much
fact it's even worse because you just get no other. Oh, a replay. Coolberg, oh so low into this tower. Oh,
he
burns the
flashed and
flash as
everything.
well. That you're right. That
Oh,
is
and
so
the
rough.
thumbs up, Doxy.
The false hope. Oh,
No, never mind.
that is so suave. Just being like, I've got him. Don't worry. Wendelvo has found Zanadia.
By connects, he has the ultimate from the Braum. Will use it trying to disengage, but he will manage to get the disengage even though he did miss it. But here comes the backup of the rest of the Vikings. Wendelbo might be caught out here. Shark goes through. Epsom abduct Kingslayer for the heal. Axis picks up that kill. Flawless Duet goes down onto 2, but Senkux just has to watch on as his Viking, support goes down.
The Vikings have arrived in their boats, and they do invade this mid lane. Wendelbo's ult turned around on him, even though he's level 4. It is 8 minutes in the game, by the way. There is just a huge XP discrepancy. Both teams are pushing each other to their limits here. So we have missed a little bit of farm compared to what you'd probably expect. Looking at the rest of the tournament, Coolberg being a bit punched. And, oh man, Senk. Ouch. That is not what we want to see here. This Urgot having the time.
They picked this Urgot. Wasn't it into the
It was
Aurelia?
knowing the Aurelia Jace flex was there. So maybe
not hitting the mark. You even have more scaling on Doxy, building towards that mana immune build. You only have the Cull Cloth Armor boots in your pocket. Look at all this tower plating that's going into the pocket of Doxy. It's
that's a little bit huge.
nigh on a 2,000 gold lead. It's about 1,600 gold at this point. 1,800 even.
And with so much of it invested into a Cull, it's not truly going to be useful. Sharp!
Flawless Duet is dodged away from using the flash. Deadly Thirst comes through. Zandia gonna be playing a little bit with fire here. This is the backup of the rest of the Barrage roster. Coolberg, he can't even sit underneath this tower. Doxy is just feasting on him with these empowered auto attacks.
Investing this much money into a Cull means he's not even going to be able to sort of come back until that's finished. The stats are nice when you're already ahead, but 3 HP a hit, a difference in this top lane will not make. Instead, it delays every other item by 450 gold. It's like we're going to see a timed recall come in, so Ray can continue to farm this middle. It's worth noting he's not been bot for a little while now, and Leambiver is having the time of his life on this misfortune.
More tower playing going over to Leambiver. Drake is just about to spawn in about 3 seconds time. It is an Ocean Drake as Rift Herald is spawned in mid. We'll get even more tower planing for the side of Barrage here as the tower goes down in the top lane. That is the first tower of the game, so extra gold going over into the pocket of Doxy. Shelly will hit the tower, but not manage to finish off. Sharp looking to engage here with the help of Axis. Axis already chunked out before this fight even begins. Down goes the exhaust. They will get the disengage thanks to Leambiver being off to the side. Winter's Bite will not manage to find anyone, but it does mean that with the backing, they might be able to pick up this Drake.
Absolutely. The tempo base of Senkux and Wendelbo not truly capitalized upon. The Herald used a little too soon, and it meant Sharp and Axis could get around the side and push that mid lane back. An absolutely fantastic advanced macro play we don't expect to see at this level. Maxi looking to challenge as Nidalee likes to do. The spear will go slightly wide. Curtain Call.
A Superior Smite. Axis gonna be tagged, but he has the shield, the directional shield that blocks everything that comes through. Will manage to back out completely unpunished for having taken that Ocean Drake. And Maxi had the Superior Smite. He's level 8 to level 7, so he could have managed maybe to get the steal there, but he did attempt it in the very least. I think a little bit more crisp communication might be able to do a little bit more as the flash gets out of Zandia. Nice sidestep will manage to get away from Deadly Flourish.
We're going to have to see Viking try and do something to stabilize their north side jungle. Otherwise, Doxy has a complete agency over the top side of the map. Did want to highlight, before that fight, Ray hit 6 like at the last moment before it started. Leambiver's still level 8. And, oh, Doxy, this is just...
Coolberg, you can't step up into this lane whatsoever. Solo kill with the Serrated Derrick building towards that mana immune. I mean, Muramana, he has the mana moon already. And look at the CS difference even at this point. He's almost 50 CS up. He's almost double the CS of Coolberg. Coolberg, I'm not quite sure what level he is. The gold gap speaks for itself. Almost 6,000 gold.
Only matched in any way, shape, and form by the disparity in the bottom lane. Vikings do have to try and play through that. Axis still isn't level 6, but Lambiver is absolutely huge.
Glacial Fisher comes through, gets knocked up onto the Braum. It was used by the Silas. Keep your mind on that as Zandia will be cut down. Sencux goes really aggressive as the bullet time goes over the top, manages to find one, looking for it to get even more. Can they get anything? Oh, will manage to get the snipe, but Maxi isn't quite at the execution threshold. But Doxy goes back in to the skies. He is found by Coolberg as he finds his first kill of the game. Axis, he's on the wrong side of the rift, so the Deadly First tags him. He goes down. He is on a killing spree now with Maxi, and they find the team fight win.
That's a 2 for 3 or 2 for 4, was it? Just about in favor of Barrage. Lots of shutdowns going either way. Sencux did fall to Sharp, and Coolberg unfortunately set his gold value by getting revenge on Doxy. So economy moving around just a little unpredictably. Zandia went in so fast with the opponent's Glacial Fissure. The problem is when you have 2 Braum ultimates on the map, the second one will normally be strongest. If you end up going in and engaging with the first, you sort of play your cards, you reveal your positioning, and that does inform a better second Glacial Fissure. Sharp moving down here now. We're going to try and see a bit of a push onto this bottom tower. Plates will fall just beforehand.
Ray is in that middle lane, trying to focus down Zandia, trying to push out the wave, maybe get a little bit more
getting any farm at all.
You're trying to funnel it down onto your gen. Here's that replay again.
Okay, Zandia, we see, does come through with a Glacial Fissure a little too soon. The shield blocks so much of that damage from the engage, and Wendelboat manages to return it. Zandia going down a little too soon. Sharp does fall, but Sencux will pay for it. Bullet time doing so much damage, and you just got to feel bad if Axis was a little stronger here. Or hits this spear even as it just short on the bottom side, expecting the sidestep. Coolberg managing to get his revenge at very last, but so close for Viking. He nearly got the 4v5 victory, but instead, Barrage turn it around just at the end.
Yeah, 2 for 4 there in the end, and if Coolberg was just a little bit more powerful at that point, he might have gotten the kill onto Maxi with the added damage ultimate, but Doxy once again. Wait, Coolberg? He's getting a decent amount of damage back, actually. I just thought he was going to be dead to rights there, and pings are coming through. Braum and Jin want to go up to this top side. No flash available for Coolberg. He doesn't have his ultimate either. His curtains have been called. Will miss the first shot. Looking for the second. Will not manage to find it. The third will connect as well. And boom, baby, the final shot connects. Takes him out for a third time.
All right, I didn't quite hear the sound cue. The reason Doxy pulled back was not that he wouldn't win the 1v1. He wouldn't win it with... Oh, never mind.
Sencux trying to find Blade Surge will not manage to find the kill on time. Just about taken out.
I did think that was a bit rich even for Sencux's blood, and probably wouldn't happen, but hey, there you go. Why not just try and get Sharp Splash? Yeah.
Gotta be proactive when the rest of your team, well, not the rest of your team, but some of your team is not doing so hot.
I mean, they just took a W on the top side, taking down Coolberg behind his tower. I think you can chill on bottom
Doxy did all of the work for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The reason Doxy peeled back, the spike from Coolberg was on, and if he dipped just a little bit lower, it would have been a high health execute. Now, Barrage do have priority onto this dragon, having just burned everything in the bottom side. They don't have bottom lane, but they have everything else, and that is more than enough. Sharp and Zandy are looking to challenge.
Not giving up just yet. Maxi level 10 to level 9 for Sharp. He has the Spirit Smite still. Dodging back. Will get over the wall.
They buy some time. Yeah, they buy a little bit of time, and that means Axis will have the vision around the middle lane. Able to chip down, keep Lambiver very, very safe and informed. Coolberg being pulled down. I don't think we should see a fight here. We're going to see a rotation to Herald, and there is potential for Sharp to get dragged through Barrage.
Senkux still on the bottom side. He's teasing that he's rotating, trying to get Zandia to move around so he can push for this tower.
We don't have TP from Zandia. They're
But the W, Doxy isn't even on his own here. Maxi picks him off, and once again, Coolberg just gonna go down here, pushing in the middle lane the rest of his team, and Zandia still in the bottom side as well. Looks like they're just gonna give up this Rift Herald too. Nothing they can do. They have 2 members down.
2 members down, picked it away. Both teams rotating towards the objective. Lambda, unfortunately, I believe, stepping on a trap, and that means that, of course, Jin can just stun you from all those miles away, snare you out, and it was largely doomed anyway. Zandia not having teleport to match Senkux. So even if he can stay in that lane, not able to influence the Herald, Viking caught out. Sharp is fishing for it here. He knows.
Looking for it. I think he must be. No, I thought he was waiting for Maxi just to appear. Zandia, he's feeling it. He wants to get out Doxy. Flashes forward, but Maxi comes in for the kill. He flashes forward as well, but that's 2 flashes for 1. Gave up a kill.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I think
it's okay. But
I think at this stage, yeah, Doxy's flash slightly more valuable than Zanadia's.
I have to mention, Temporal, that Maxi has 18 stacks on his Majia's Soul Stealer. So that is what makes it not worth it.
Oh.
In any way, shape, or form, it gave him extra stacks on his Majia's.
I mean,
it's going for the win. He wants to get it in style. Goes forward with the Deadly Flourish. Senkux will manage to find 1 kill before he goes down himself. Wendelbo sure to follow here, but he's so tanky. Actually, he's all on his own. The TP too little, too late. Won't pass this too, but in comes the second one as well. They're just so delayed. It's a flash out of Ray here. Coolberg will manage to find the kill. Can he get the fear? He cannot. Looking for the chase Ray down as well. Gone to abduct. He has the Kingslayer for to heal up a little bit more as well. He's the last Whisper. He hits on the Coolberg, though. He has to do it onto Zandia. And look at the base.
The game's ending, Dara.
The game is over. The game is done. No one can get back on time to try and defend this. In comes the TPs. They have to try and defend their base. Coolberg, he's trying to survive, trying to get out. But Doxy, he ends the game. And they get first seed.
Oh, that is a fantastic way to end a best of 1. Just both teams trying the hardest, wailing away, but meanwhile Doxy in top. Just here we go. We'll see it again. Okay, so it was about here. There's a Nexus turret already gone. We're still fighting in the Dragon Pits. This is extended through the middle lane from the double teleports in. So no responses here for Vikings, and Doxy's just having a great time.
TP coming in as well, just to make sure that if they kill Doxy, that they could still end Senkux, get the last auto down onto the Nexus. And what a way to end. I was wondering why Reed, our producer, was kind of going,
I didn't want to interrupt. You were having so much
Reed,
fun.
I don't know what you're watching, and then he just ends all the way to the Nexus. It's like, okay, Doxy's just ending the game. He doesn't want to be fighting this any longer. He wants to get to the cover or something.
Oh, that was a whole bunch of fun. Vikings definitely put up a strong fight. I think I'm not sure. We didn't really predict the future as tell everyone how it was going to be. That Sharp put an absolute clinic on for Barrage there.
He was a monster in that game. It was. I was going to say it's top diff, but that sounds too flamey. Sounds a bit too flamey, but
I think
it kind of was. He won through top. He pushed all of the towers while they were fighting around the Drake. And then he just ended the game. Senkux should just TP in.
I'm not saying I'd dodge in solo queue if I was the Urgot, but I probably wouldn't enjoy playing that game. I think when Wendelbo did try, and there were moments he never gave up.
Right?
Yeah, it's playable. It's more playable.
Yeah,
in my mind,
playable, but it's not great. I mean, it's better to be into the melee matchup than the Jace matchup with the range.
Yes, and then you give Silas more agency as well. So you're trying to trade upon both fronts. Yeah, let's bring it to a head. Let's bring it to a head. Viking, really good try. There were moments of brilliance. We've got a couple of weeks for you to go away, patch up those holes, try and find a way to deal with Senkux. We're all gonna. I think every team in this tournament, every team in this tournament.
In the pregame, it's Doxy and Senkux, and then they have Maxi in the jungle. They play around their top side holistically, just always around their top side, and
you gotta try and find a way in. You got
They
2
didn't even
weeks.
have Maxi paying a huge amount of attention up there. He ganked 3 or 4 times maybe, and then he was kind of spending more time kind of trying to match the pressure being exerted by Sharp throughout the rest of the map.
So did trade away that first dragon, wasn't involved, happily just said, hang on, okay, we'll put some pressure on top side. We'll go and sort out bottom later. And then it did put a bit of a stint on Sharp. Maxi was in the right place at the right time, matching him out. Oh, okay.
So we have to decide MVP.
Oh, MVP.
I mean, I have who I have in mind for MVP.
Go on, Dara. I've got 4 in my head. So.
And you 4 in your head.
Yes.
4. Okay.
It's a best of 1.
You're like, oh well, it's all down to Senkux. No.
Yeah, but
in my mind, it's down to Doxy. As
Doxy.
Reed said in my ear, or in the it is down to Doxy. Doxy dominated that top lane. He ended the game with the help of Senkux, and he just won that matchup so hard. I mean, it's a very poor matchup for the Urgot.
Yeah.
Well, he was just pressuring him away from the wave the entire time. He was double the CS for a lot of the game once he reached around that.
But so was Lambiver. So was Lambiver. So it caused Barrage to have to do that. Yeah, it caused them to have to do that weird rotation where Senkux ended up bottom and bleeding his advantage for ages just to get right into level 6. Like that matchup, especially when Axis wasn't there.
Candidate then.
I like Sharp. I like Maxi. I like Lambiver. I think they all played absolutely fantastically, and the answer is mostly arbitrary. So congrats, Maxi. You might. Yeah, we're gonna go with Maxi.
Maxi always plays well, but I think Doxy doesn't get enough recognition because
Doxy did fantastically, but Maxi was there making sure Sharp couldn't twist that lane back around, and I think that is the greater difference in my mind. None of those players we've mentioned should feel shunned or like.
No, I mean
they all played fantastic.
All of the Barrage roster, to be fair, they all played really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just still in shock that that's happening.
That teleport's still like, what's that?
That happened to the LEC where it's just like, oh no, it's a base race, and then like actually ends. Okay, so we're gonna throw it to the analyst desk to break down that win. I think there's a lot for them to talk about.
Oh yes. Right. Catch you guys later. Thank you very much for watching.
Oh, hello. Oh, the game's over. Sorry about that, guys.
What?
The
I
game.
just want to go grab a cup of tea. What? It's
over.
over?
Qualifier 1 is
Oh.
concluded. Barrage, they take it down. Can somebody please explain what's happened?
So, let me set a picture for you. Viking have had a good early game. It's got a bit scrappy in the mid game. I think, look, we need to get these dragons. We need to find our way back into this after things have started going ahead. There's this evil Jace in the top side that no one can touch because he blows anybody up who comes to even look at him. And they start fighting in the river. All the while that Jace, that we kind of mentioned as this great evil force in the top line, manages to make his way into the base, take all the towers, take the Nexus, while the rest of the Viking cannot recall because the rest of Barrage just say, well, if we just stop you getting back, then you don't get to do anything. And at less than 90 minutes 30, they take the game off a backdoor from Jace.
It very much reminds me of one of the greatest moments in cinema history in the end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's like, you know what? Just like
That's exactly it.
It's just for Doxy charging into random fights to just buy time for Doxy to just backdoor the Nexus, deliver the ring into Mount Doom. Yeah,
Draw
we
the evil
were
eye of
complete-
Sharp to the river.
And I'm sorry if it seems like we're like taken aback or anything like that, because we would be
are.
more prepared, but we are taken aback.
Yeah. And rightly so, I would say. So, okay, we've calmed down. We're taking a breath after that game. Let's rewind the clock. Let's go back to the start. Let's take this game all the way through because there was actually quite a lot of back and forth throughout this game. And to start it off, it looked like Vikings were actually making a good show of the early game.
Yeah, they were.
I think that Sharp really got active, and I think whereas Wendelboe is quite hard to punish in a couple of the games we've seen from him, as we saw in the semifinals, did get caught out a little bit from the pressure on bot side, and actually Sharp this game really ended up pressuring bot lane in this game too.
Yeah, he got 2 ganks off bot, gets the first blood, comes back for another couple kills that gets his bot lane super far ahead. Problem is, it does come at the cost of his own farm. He's on a Graves, it's versus a Lilia. That is very much all about efficiency. It really, really is in the jungle at the minute. And if your efficiency for ganking is more about when you see opportunities rather than necessarily, I'm going to clear this way and then we're going to gank and doing it off on your own terms, you can end up being put behind. And it did cost the Graves on a personal level, which is a scary thing in the current meta.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw that while all of this investment was getting poured into the bottom lane to some decent success from Vikings, something a little wrong was happening in the top side for the side of Vikings. Barrage Doxy was putting on a bit of a show up there, was he not?
I think so. I was in Twitch chat throughout, and
Yes.
kind of talking with various people, and we were talking about, I was talking about various players who've done well this tournament, and Doxy has just been in an absolute league of his own. I think Frumi, actually, one of the guys that we had on as guest, that has said words to that effect too. This guy is just in a class of his own. Jace in this matchup is dangerous to fight when even, awkward to fight when behind, and it's just lethal to fight him when he's ever got a lead. And what happened was very early lead, got the early kills onto Urgot, and it snowballed out of control. I believe that Urgot got a cull at about 5 to 6 minutes, and it was stuck at about 100 on the 100 stack bit for a while because he immediately died. And then he only had it at about 60 stacks, so that's 40 CS at about 15 minutes. So that's 10 minutes, or 8 to 10 minutes, 40 farm. You can tell how much Doxy was just leveraging that advantage.
And I've got to give serious credit to the guy as well. His bot side was in a lot of trouble. He knew Sharp was spending a lot of time down there. And if you are a Jace player, if you are a top laner of the caliber of Doxy, that suddenly means you have the complete green light to go for the 1v1. And he really, really pushed it very, very hard, knowing what the map state was and knowing that, frankly, if he wasn't getting the lead without the jungle to kind of keep him at bay, then the team would be in trouble. They were down 3 kills until he managed to find his way onto that solo kill under the tower. And he got a monumental lead and helped wrestle the game back for Barrage.
Yeah, when you're seeing CS differentials like 85 to 39 and
Awful.
145 to 75, that is just absolutely exceptional pressing of that advantage in that top lane from Doxy. We love to talk about this guy. He's so strong. But I don't want to sing his praises only for the side of Barrage, because when we look down to that bottom lane that was getting camped and pressured so heavily, they actually did pretty well considering the amount of camping that they were being placed under.
Do you want to say this one, Sam?
Yeah, I think we can do. I think Rai and Wendelbo have been sometimes a little suspect in the early lane in the tournament. They have got caught out a couple times. It's sometimes been a little bit rough around those upper ones, partly because the side of Maxi likes to focus topside, and that can leave him out to dry a bit. But hit that mid game, playing from behind even has been a real strength of this bot side, and the consistency out of Rai, if nothing else, has been just superb. His Jhin has really impressed me across the tournament in particular, and honestly, Nidalee, Jace, and Jhin hitting all his bullets on that curtain call is a deadly combo to begin with. When you sort of couple that up with the consistency of Rai, it's really, really deadly and very potent.
I think particularly for me, Rai just manages. One of the things we saw right from the first series that we covered on our coverage of the NLC was Barrage Academy. So that's obviously tied to the eventual winners. And a couple of other teams not playing responsibly with the lead, not playing responsibly in general a lot of the time, where you're just overdiving, fighting at pretty much the wrong points, and giving these opportunities for the mechanical outplay to just turn the game against the head. Rai doesn't really do that. Rai is rarely in a position where he is caught out in a big team fight. If the team fight goes well for his team, he's the guy that's alive at the end of it. That's very important because as an ADC, that allows you to take objectives, allows you to kill towers, allows you to do so much more. And he not only managed to keep himself safe, but when you look at his KDA, I'm sure his DPM stats are very, very high too. He was just very, very effective at playing responsibly.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you talk about playing responsibly and teams playing responsibly with their lead. Is it responsible to take that lead and just bulldoze it straight through the enemy base and win with the backdoor at 90 minutes? Is that what you mean, Nightmare, by responsible lead?
Okay, if I could take this one out as Do you want to go grab that one, buddy? I think we've managed to pick up a wonderful time for someone to come to the apartment and deliver something. I've no idea
The
what it is,
FBI
but
is opening up right now, live on stream.
that's what that is the air raid siren. As Doxy says, screw being responsible.
Yeah.
I'm going to run at you, whatever happens.
He's backdooring your house right now.
He's here. He's turned up. Nymera's got to try and stop him, and he's not coming back. I'm gonna be going to a funeral later, and that's really sad news for me. But there we go.
Why don't we go to you, Sam? Why don't you take that question instead? So how do you feel about Doxy choosing to just go
absolutely
so
nothing
high with this?
Yeah, I think so. This is the deal with Doxy. Is like it's sometimes the case of carry top lanes. You look at the likes of someone like the Shy or Nuguri at the top of their games. They take those risky fights to really hammer home the advantage. No Jace pun intended. And it's less about being responsible. It's more about taking the advantages you have and looking to try and just crush the game by taking some of those mechanical 50-50s and realizing that actually I am the 51% and I will take that more often than not. And that did come to a really significant lead when the fact that he did get to split push into the base. He did get to take down the threat. Yes, he died once or twice in dumb occasions, but more often than not, it gets him a bigger advantage than he loses it.
Well, we saw him taking 1v3s in various games. Guys, I think if nothing else, this guy has the confidence to really go far. I really want to see what they do in the full tournament. I think that this team has the right mindset to make those huge plays, which can take you some really big games.
Yeah, I think we are all here at Square One, and probably everyone watching ready to echo Frumi's sentiment that everyone needs to have their eyes on Doxy, on this player, and I too really am excited to see where he goes. So if we're going to take a look at the tournament as a whole now, just take a little bit of a brief retrospective, we do have what was considered to be the #1 seed, Barrage, taking the win there. But was an exciting new challenger in Vikings. If we look at the players and the performances that we've seen, I'd like for you guys to try and pick out a player of the whole tournament here. Obviously, you guys have seen a lot of the games. Some of you have casted a lot of the games as well. We've been keeping up as we go forward. I am going to go to Sam first here to see who maybe you would pick for your player of the tournament.
I think I have to go towards Doxy personally. I think there are a few good shouts, but Doxy has nearly single-handedly won every lane he's been in, apart from the one Shen game where that was more of a team disconnect than any personal issues per se. And the likes of his Jace into Camille, the Jace here into the air, got his own Camille games. Just how insane this man has been about taking his lead, crushing lane, and then transitioning it to the rest of the map to turn up and murder someone else, go for the 1v3s. He has been an unstoppable force, and yeah, there's been one or two ints, but there's been a hell of a lot more incredible plays to go with it. Backdoor to finish off the tournament is just the cherry on top.
I get a really hard choice now.
Yeah, he's taking the easy one.
Yeah, Sam raises some very good points. I think it's very easy to focus on Doxy because he's had a lot of highlight plays. That is always going to give you in with the shout of tournament MVP. For me, I am going to go kind of on the other end of that scale, though. I am going to go towards Ryu. Talked about him earlier. I think that this guy is Mr. Consistent. I think that in the in the games that Barrage looked a bit shaky and lost, whereas really just the one game, Ryu was the one guy that was just completely towing the line. This guy has been the person who is out of the whole tournament, the person playing the most responsibly, like I was talking about the whole monologue earlier. I think that his laning phase has been more than fine. I think he's got a champion pool which is more than suitable for the current meta. He's played everything very well. He's a bit of a role player where he's just like said, we need this from your role. And he says, okay, I'll do that. And he does that so well without kind of being, he's not being arsy about it. He's just going on, he's playing his role and he's doing it to great effect too.
Absolutely. Well, these are both very good arguments, and I'm going to go a bit rogue here, guys. I'm going to put the production on notice, and I'm going to say I think what we should do, because this is a really hard decision, I think we should just post a poll on the Square One Twitter and have you guys at home decide. I think it's a very tough decision. I would love to know what you all think, and now they have to do it because I said it live on stream, so they're right to a corner. Get wrecked, everybody. Doku, get on it.
Trajan's never hosting again. He's never been
you are
Square One. It's the last you've seen of
evil
him.
Man.
They're gonna cut the feed right now. The stream's going dead. Just
you're gonna have Doxy call at your house now. He already got Nymera, who's back from the grave. Restored him, found him.
Absolutely. Okay, with that, everybody, I think that is all.
No, it was Doxy. He was just here. He just took over the Nexus.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is all the time we have here for this post-game segment and for Qualifier 1. That is us wrapping up. I want to put a huge thank you out to the staff, all of the casters and all of the production staff, Sarge for organizing everything, and Square One, the whole team for being there. the guests for showing up. We had some amazing guests here. Frumi, as we mentioned, Officer Naughty. We've got more planned for the future as well. Swiffer coming on. Really happy to see everyone getting involved with us as we put out this broadcast. And the biggest thank you of all has to go to Mr. Reed HD. Can we get some thanks, Mr. Reed, in the chat, please? Everybody, our production manager here, I guess we can say, who's been doing all of this streaming for us, an absolutely excellent talent behind the scenes, as always. I love it. I love it. This is what we need. Who needs a live? Who needs a live audience in Pandemic Zone? We've got piped in cheers. That is all we need. Okay. We are going to be back next weekend with Qualifier 2. This is only the first one. We've got a whole other qualifier to go through. Same setup, same schedule as well. We'll be posting all of the information in detail on the Twitter and everywhere else, I imagine, to come. Thank you very much. I have been Trajan, joined by Nymira and Initialize for this final game of the Qualifier 1. We've loved having you all here. We'll hope you see you all very soon. Thanks for watching, everyone.